up? Welcome, everyone. It's the Electronic Gaming Mostly podcast. I'm the Night Terror, and Gambler's muted. Well, today I guess we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones and other random shit.
As usual.
Probably not going to watch the making of thing.
Why not?
Because I'm going to be streaming tonight. I'll probably watch it.
Yeah, well, not tonight.
At a later date. Oh, good. So, for Guild Wars, they sent me my support request back.
This is good news.
Thank you for your patience, Commander. I have been able to confirm that you are indeed the owner of this account with the information you have presented with us. With that, I have dispatched a password reset link to your email address. This link is special and does not require your serial code or character name to be input, but also expires after 24 hours, so please make haste with the changing your password. If you do not receive the automatically generated email, yada, 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 yada.
Blah, blah, blah.
So, yeah, we can do Guild Wars again.
Well, there you have it. Podcast over. We're going to go do Guild Wars.
Well, not tonight, but, if I need an MMO, it's not World of Warcraft.
It's the best. World of Warcraft's the best. Everyone says it's the best. It's the biggest. It's the longest lasting. Everybody knows that.
Well, it's the most popular. And what do we know about things that are the most popular?
Guns are popular. Vagina is popular. Sex is pretty popular. Those are all pretty cool things. So, not everything that's popular sucks. Depends on who it's popular amongst. All the 12-year-olds. I like the
original Guild Wars. And some pretty unique classes. I went for the most complicated.
I don't mind the second one.
Need to know about other classes. Well, I only played the second one for like 30 minutes. I don't really remember it at all.
It's actually got a pretty unique system. It's based off weapons, which is pretty cool. It doesn't overwhelm you with a bunch of abilities, which, whatever. People come and say stuff like that all the time. They're like, this game has so many abilities. Like, maybe you're just fucking retarded if you think it's too many abilities. I'm just saying. You might be you. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy XIV was okay, but it just played too much like WoW, but didn't play as well as WoW. It ran better and it looked way better, but the whole fucking, like, I played a mage just like in World of Warcraft, and it's just really slow. There's like hardly any like impact sense of like your animations and stuff.
It's okay.
It's like you hit a button and you kind of do this weird like, I'm gonna jump in the air and poke my wand at you, and it's really Japanesey. A lot of fucking cutesy bullshit just all over the place, because that's what people like. Like, what if I just want like a dark fantasy MMO? Can we have that?
Final Fantasy is usually hit or miss. One of the most disappointing things about Final Fantasy XIV for me was that they basically just took Final Fantasy XI and made a sequel. I would have preferred them to go the kind of classic Final Fantasy route where 14 was much more different from 11, and kind of see how that goes. Because, think about Final Fantasy 15.
Did they try that and then rebooted it?
No, it's in terms of the setting and the classes and the looks and the visuals, it's pretty much just like 11.
I blame World of Warcraft for there not being enough other alternatives to World of Warcraft. So many MMOs have just kind of failed or don't have a community, or they try to do something that's different because they want to be different than World of Warcraft.
Exactly. It just emulate what works, Just do like
less cartoony bullshit.
Yeah, listen, it's like a car. You still got to build the foundation the fucking same to what people are used to. You got to have air conditioning. You got to have a wheel that everybody's used to. You can't just put in a fucking stick and say, that's the wheel. It's a straight fucking bar. We're unique and different. No, just stop. It's all got to work similar to what people are using.
I would really enjoy an atmosphere like Dark Souls.
Right?
Except for not being such a dead world, but having that atmosphere of Dark Souls.
Yeah.
And like if you see someone walking around with some little squirrel fox thing with little hearts above it, you can just fucking kill it and they can't get it back.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here. Go back to World of Warcraft.
Fuck yeah. Fuck you, piece of shit. We don't like people.
Except
for you.
It's possible to be kind of badass in World of Warcraft. Like in the Fire Mage heyday in Legion, I thought I had a pretty good transmog going. I just went out of my way to pick up everything that was fire related, which was tough because everything in that game is purple and green. So you find some fire shit, and I thought it was pretty badass. But then you look around and everyone else is like, I'm a cat. And I was like, what the fuck? Get out of my raid group.
I'm a cat.
Warriors are pretty badass for the most part. I mean, there's like, the thing is even the stuff that looks badass is still limited by their fucking cartoon land art style that they got going. They don't have a whole lot. Like, for example, I wanted a mount where I could carry someone else if I needed to. I thought that would be pretty useful. So I bought the BlizzCon ticket like 2 years ago because it came with one of those. And it's like this fucking busted ass flying ship. It looks like it shouldn't even work. It's making this sound like the engine's about to put. I'm like, yeah, I can't ever.
Yeah, it's always a fucking cartoon like that. Yeah, I don't get it. But
like I said, Amazon is making an MMO. I should look that up now so I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't think maybe Amazon is publishing it or something. Let's see. It's called New World. Oh. Amazon's questionable MMO has you colonize the New World. Yeah, it might be a little too realistic. Well, there's a guy shooting a zombie, so maybe not.
Well, I mean, we need a game based off colonization so that people understand what the fuck it really is. It's not invasion. Okay, people talk like colonization, colonizing is invading. It's like the Africans had Wakanda and the fucking British showed up and was like, level this fucking city with our cannon.
Oh, now here we go. It's interesting, too, that New World is developed by a company as controversial as Amazon. From its treatment of workers to its tax avoidance and environmental record, the conglomerate is arguably one of the most exploitative organizations in the world, an aggressive colonizer in its own right. Well, if they make a good game, what the fuck do I care? The thing is it looks like it's too much based in reality.
Yeah. Well, that's not really bad. I mean, it depends on what they do. We really haven't had a zombie-based MMO.
I don't know if it's a zombie. It looks like a dude with red. I mean, it could be, but like, there's a guy that looks like a fucking red coat shooting him with a musket. So I mean, if that's the kind of gameplay it's going to be, I don't know. We don't know enough about it. The graphics look good. It would just be nice to have an MMO that looks realistic, but like I said, Dark Souls, realistic and dark, but with actual other people around, or at least other NPCs around that aren't trying to murder you all the time. Whatever. I'll give Guild Wars 2 another shot. You can get the game and all the expansions for $40. And since I already got the heroic version, maybe I can get like the rest of the expansions for cheap. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't even know if I have the expansions. Maybe like one of them or something like that.
But the first one was really good. They had this class that I played, which is probably not. I played Guild Wars before World of Warcraft. It was my first MMO, so I don't really. I didn't really know a whole lot about MMOs. So they tell you which classes you should choose as a beginner. So of course I just ignored that and picked Mesmer. And the whole idea behind a Mesmer is it's like the Aikido of MMOs, right? It's like the more damage the enemy does, the more damage they take. It's like you'd put spells on them that every time they attack, they take a bunch of damage. And every time they cast a spell, they take a fuck ton of damage. Not the best for soloing, but it was pretty fun. Oh man, Facebook memory from May 19th, 2013. It's me holding a fortune cookie, like, the fortune inside of a fortune cookie, and it says, "Everyone agrees you are the best." This is before Trump was elected too.
That is so humble.
Everyone agrees you're the best. In fact, I'm gonna share that right now on my Facebook page for the Night Terror Gaming, which you should all go follow.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to come up with original content, I'm just going to start sharing content. Sorry, the privacy setting on this post means that you can't share it on the night. This is what I'm talking about. Fuck you, Facebook. It's something I posted. I can't share on a page I manage. Fuck off.
So stupid. That website needs to die.
Ugh.
Die. Kill it. Anyways.
Yeah, so what else is new in gaming? The Witcher 3 is starting to pick up after, 24 hours of gameplay, something like that.
Yeah, I'm having a good time with it. I'm still.
How far did you get yesterday?
House. Not too far. I mean, it's a slow game. You play for fucking 2 to 3 hours, and it feels like you've made some kind of accomplishment, and you realize you've done 4 side quests and 1 main quest. Like, what the fuck happened? I do need to get some of these mods you talked about, because being able to just fucking fast travel anywhere at any time would be great.
Yeah, you just got to be careful, because it'll also let you do it in the middle of a quest. And it can break the quest. So you just got to make sure that you're not in the middle of anything when you do it. I had to get rid of one. I had to get rid of reasonable prices because it was causing some kind of conflict that I couldn't figure out how to fix. But basically, it would make it so that all the trash weapons that you pick up, instead of selling for 25 crowns, sell for like 1 to 2. But the prices for buying everything are a lot more reasonable. But I figure towards the end, I'm going to be rich as fuck anyway from something, so I just got rid of it. So right now, all I have is my weight limit is now 9,000. So no more weight limit, which, I mean, the only reason I did that, I mean, I like the kind of realistic factor of not being able to carry everything, but the weight doesn't even apply to most of your shit. It applies to weapons and stuff. Right? That's it. So when I'm going out and I want to treasure hunt and just go to all the question marks on the map, I don't want to have to do 3 or 4 and then be like, well, got to go sell shit. And I can't go to the same guy to sell shit because he's out of fucking money. Right? So now I can just do all this stuff and basically have no inventory limit. Fast travel from anywhere. Indestructible items because item degradation is stupid. Always full XP, which it basically means if I do a quest that's lower level than me, I still get all the XP for it, which isn't a lot. It's still not a lot, so it's not game breaking or anything. But the problem is, like, you could pick up level 32 quests at level 6. Right? So you try to level up and do some stuff, and then you end up being under leveled for the main quest, and you end up getting behind. It's kind of a weird system. For being open world, they really try to like pigeonhole you into like doing certain quests in a certain order. So I don't like that. So I always get full XP for the quests. And I got a cloak. I can wear a cloak and a hood now. Optionally, it can turn it off with a key press. So when I look like a complete fucking idiot, I can kind of cover that up with a cloak and a hood. And that's really all I got. I'm afraid that some of these that are going to break the game. It's not as easily moddable as something like Skyrim. So, and some of them are made for like the GOG edition, and some are made for the Steam edition and the Game of the Year edition, and you got to be careful about which ones you install. But I mean, basically anything that I can't use the mod manager to install, I don't even bother with, because I don't want to fuck with the code and then not know how to undo it. I did try to get the texture increase mod, which is one that is not installable through the mod manager, and it doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work, and I don't want to fuck with it anymore. So
why would you want to make the game even more difficult to run? Like, isn't the game really fucking taxing already?
No, if I just leave it to its own devices, it runs at like 115 plus frames per second. The problem is I can't stream it like that because it drops frames. So I just limited the frame rate to 90. I figured out how to do that. That's just a config file edit. And 90, after I get past like 80, 90 frames, it really doesn't look that much different. So it's a good compromise. It looks like it's still running at 120 frames per second, but I can stream it. And this is only textures, really. And textures really only have to do with your VRAM. So yeah, the VRAM to run it. It's not really going to affect your frame rate at all.
Yeah. Well, I went up in my attic last night, That was like 7 in the morning, really. I thought, hey, I need daylight, so I'll wait till 7 in the morning. I got hot up there real quick. I think I was up there for like 15 minutes, so I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I got a mask on and everything. I don't know what it is. Like, my house is 100 years old, so I don't know if they like back in the day. I know they used to use like sawdust and shit for insulation, but there's no insulation over a certain part of my house. It's fucking killing me right now, and I got to get some insulation over there. Later, I'm gonna go get a couple bats, a couple rolls, maybe like 6 to 8, and I guess in like at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna try to go up there and work on it. The worst part is I got to clean that shit out. It's like, you know how walls are built, right? You got the
No.
I mean, most people have seen what the frame of a house looks like to some degree. Like you, pretty commonly, right? You have a 2x4 and then an area of space, and then a 2x4 and an area of space, right? Like that. Your ceiling is very similar to that up with your attic. So those little areas of space are where you're supposed to have the insulation, and instead those areas have looks like it's not even like a lot of sawdust. It's like if it's like some kind of, it's like dust and particulate, and then there's like scrap wood left over from when they built the fucking place. Now I know that like 100 years ago they used to build attics and seal them up. There wouldn't be a crawl space to get into it, but of course they had to add an air conditioning unit at a later date. So they cut a hole in one of the closets in the upstairs office room, and it's one of the bedrooms, and that's the access point. And then they put an AC unit up there. I don't know how the fuck they got an AC unit up there. That fucking thing is huge. I don't know what the fuck they did there. Very impressive if you ask me. And then they put some insulation, but they didn't insulate the entire attic. And I guess because it was a serious fucking cleanup, and maybe they just swept everything over to one area. Maybe they laid the insulation on top of debris. I don't fucking know. But it's I gotta go up there again.
I don't know. I zoned out when you said walls were built.
I gotta go up there again late at night instead of early in the morning.
There's a rumor that we could be seeing Resident Evil 8 at E3.
Oh, that's good. I'd love to see that. Man, E3 is going to be exciting too, by the way.
There's also a rumor that Capcom is going to outsource the Resident Evil 3 remake, which if they do, big fucking mistake. I don't know why you would do that after the success of 7.
If it's on remake. The same engine, I mean, it depends on who's doing it.
Yeah, well, their outsourcing has not turned out very well in the past.
I mean, I'm excited. That's really good news considering I'm sitting here dying of heat stroke. Like, that's keeping me going, you know?
We'll see. We heard that Resident Evil 2 remake was going to be at E3 for like 3 years straight before we actually saw it, so whatever. It could just be someone saying, Japanese man, I really hope we see this.
Fuck.
Whatever.
We've talked about this before. Like, a lot of companies, all of these game developers will like just hype the shit out of a game way ahead of its release. And then if there's any problems and they have to change anything, suddenly they got to crunch and all this shit, you know, because their publishers breathing down their necks. But Japanese companies, they don't give you a fucking thing till it's ready, till they know that they're at a place where, okay, this is going to be the game that goes out the door, you know.
Yeah, that's how it fucking should be.
And
I love that Capcom is doing it the old-fashioned way, just fucking taking their time to make a good game, releasing it, having like maybe 1 or 2 pieces of completely optional DLC for cheap, just because they can.
Well, they do this amazing thing where if the game is 8 months out and they've put out a trailer and shit, and suddenly somebody is like, well, we got to build it from the ground up. They're like, no, cancel it. It's an amazing concept. But I guess it's not really a negative thing. If you look at a game like Anthem and your complaint is that, you know, it's not what it could have been, but then at the same time, the alternative was the game just doesn't exist at all. You know, I guess that's kind of petty to not want to see it exist, because I'm sure there's some people out there that do enjoy.
Well, it wouldn't have been a problem if they didn't show off and hype it up and get all these people excited about it.
Hype's a big problem. Hype is a giant problem in the games industry.
That's why, like, when they were trying to hype it up, I don't really get into the hype. Like, I get hyped about things that I know I'll be, like, I was hyped for Resident Evil 2. It wasn't because I knew nothing about Resident Evil 2 and then someone hyped it to me. When people try to hype shit to me like that, it usually does not get me excited at all. Maybe it's just because I'm a contrarian, and when someone tells me to do something, my first instinct is to tell them to go fuck themselves.
Mine too, yeah, I'm right there with you.
But like when everyone was all excited for Anthem, like I saw all the same shit everyone else did, and I was like, yeah. Well, could be good, but probably won't be. Good, yeah. That's why I wasn't disappointed with it. First of all, I didn't pay full price. I paid for, you know, the whatever the Origin Access thing does. So I didn't really pay for the game. And it was pretty much what I thought it would be. It was pretty bland and one-dimensional, and it had a lot of potential, but, you know, they're not going to... It's too late. You can't say this is going to be... This isn't going to be
fixed in time.
Maybe not. They got like 3 people working on that game. I mean, I think they're just giving up.
I don't know.
I mean, that had a 10-year plan. Good luck. Good luck with that. I think there's only one game that successfully has been around 10 years, and it's World of Warcraft.
Yeah. Take note. And it wasn't just vanilla.
Subscription fees plus DLC.
It wasn't just vanilla for 10 years. Fucking classic noobs. All right.
Yeah, well, people are trying to survive off their microtransaction money instead of a monthly subscription.
Oh, another tip for you guys that want to play classic. If you don't take my advice and play a rogue and you want to play a hunter, you better feed your pet or it'll run away. Better do that.
Gotta keep your pet happy. God, what a nightmare. Yeah. And there's actually all these people that are coming out like making YouTube videos. I was wrong. I thought the game being so difficult would make it tedious, but the challenge makes it more fun. Like, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's just new to you. It's more World of Warcraft. For people that have never played Classic, it's going to be World of Warcraft with some new content, but you're going to start to slowly miss all those things. Trust me on that. Because once the novelty of it wears off in the first couple of weeks, you're going to be like, I wish I could fly around this shit. Man, wouldn't it be awesome to fly? Because you're not going to have your fucking whistle that takes you to the goddamn nearest flight path, okay? Hell, I was talking about this earlier with my wife when we were leveling. I'm like, you know what would be great? If Blizzard gave the whistle to your alts. So you could fucking whistle to the nearest flight path while you're leveling.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I've already been through all this shit.
Yeah, well, with vanilla, they didn't really have anything to do at the end. They didn't want people rushing through the game, so they're not going to do that. I just don't, like, I've already heard people talking about where are the patch updates? Where are they going to end? We're going to start with 1.12, but where's it going to end? It's like, it should end at 1.12. It makes no fucking sense to have vanilla servers and current servers and have to constantly update both of them and at the same time. Because eventually you're going to get to the point where people are like, I really wish we had vanilla. Like, oh my God, you had it.
Well, you know for a fact that we're losing, production on BFA here because you've had Ian Hazacostas come out and talk in interviews that he's been playing a character on vanilla. I mean, people could claim that he has free time all they want. It's just, I mean.
I can't believe that it's just entered beta and people are already talking about the next classic expansion. Like, you're already bored with it? Really? Not enough for you?
Yeah, of course they are.
People don't know what they want.
Fucking boring. I mean, there's some stuff that might be fun and nostalgic, getting your 2.5 or your 1.5, sorry, your 0.5 gear and all of that. But I mean, you know how many fucking times I ran Molten Core? I ran Molten Core I ran my guild's alts through Molten Core, trying to get bindings of the Windseeker. Okay. I ran Molten Core till I had up to like fucking 200 plus DKP unspent. And we used a DKP system where you were getting 0 point values on fucking gear. I mean, give me a fucking break. Get out of here. I am sick of
the only thing I would want to do.
I made a Dark Iron Dwarf the other day, and they
team Rogue.
Me to Molten Core, and I fucking hated it.
I would just tag team people as a rogue in PvP servers. Just grief the shit out of people until they realize that they've made a huge mistake. That's it. I'm going to become everything I hated because of this. And that's only if I get so bored that I re-up my WoW subscription, because right now it's not looking like that's going to happen. At least until they start fixing fire mages. Which, you know, with 8.2, I looked into it. Pretty much everyone got some kind of change or a buff or adjustment of some kind. Fire mages got nothing. Absolutely nothing. After all this time, they still can't figure out that Phoenix Flames needs to be baseline for the class to feel good. It's such a simple change that they just won't fucking do. I don't know why. Now they can go in there and change all the Azurite traits or whatever, but I don't even know what they do anymore. They're so forgettable, and I know they're changing the system and all that.
Adding what's called essence.
Yeah, well, whatever. It's still, I don't see how, unless that adds abilities you can add to your rotation, I don't really see it, because it's the same problem as it's ever been with fire mages, is you rely on crits. And they've actually nerfed crit so much that the stat priority puts crit at the very bottom. It's the last thing you should be getting, because it's not worth losing everything else to stat crit. So You're just going to be fucking pumping out fireballs, my dude. Boom, 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 boom. Hitting like a wet noodle. Should have rolled frost. Fucking terrible.
Well, the essence in the game is going to be, it's going to have 4 tiers. It's going to be a tree of its own, ranging from uncommon to legendary, with higher quality versions providing more effects. So, for example, you have something like Purification Protocol, which is a major power. 40-yard range instant, 1 minute cooldown. Call down a purifying beam upon the target area, dealing damage over 6 seconds. Has a low chance to immediately annihilate any specimen deemed unworthy by Mother. When an enemy dies within the beam, your damage is increased by 10% for 8 seconds. Any aberration struck by the beam is stunned for 8 seconds. And then it has a minor power, approximately 2 procs per minute. So when you're not using the cooldown, this minor power takes effect. Or maybe you apply this as a minor instead. Like, you could put this as a major power and get that ability, or you can put it in a minor power and get this ability. 2 procs per minute. Mother has added a purification protocol to your Heart of Azeroth, allowing your damaging spells and abilities to release a blast of Azerite energy at your target, dealing damage to any enemy. So you can go for the proc or the activation, I guess. So they're putting like options like that. Let's see. They have like a list here. Let's see if we can find shit for mages. Actually, I don't think there's anything just for mages. I think it's all like everybody has
getting fucked over for a decade. So, I mean, I'm not surprised.
No, I mean, like, I think these are used by everybody, and you get them from, so like Vision of Perfection. This one is complete the initial chapters of the Nazjatar War campaign. Memory of Lucid Dreams, complete the quest Azerite for the faction and the mysterious treasure map mission reward. You know, Engine of the Ceaseless Progress, complete Operation Mechagon. Azeroth's Undying Gift, claim a weekly PvP war chest in Season 3 or later. And then this one's a vendor. You know, so it's stuff like that. And it has them all listed out here. Some of them are pretty good. Memory of the Lucid Dreams, instant 3-minute cooldown, clear your mind and attune yourself with the Heart of Azeroth, increasing your holy power generation rate by 100%. and your leech by 874 for 10 seconds. That's pretty strong. I guess that's just for paladins because it says holy power. So I guess there are class specific ones. It doesn't say it on this list though, so that's kind of lame that they would do that. There are different versions of it, so you can get the rare version of it, the epic version of it, or the legendary version of it, and there's like different ways of getting that. And of course they add shit to it. I don't know. I think this is a good system. I think this is moving towards more what it should have been. It's unfortunate that the game didn't launch with shit like this. I mean, I've said it before.
We're halfway through the expansion already.
Well, we're at the end. This is pretty much going to be the last.
Well, I mean, in terms of time, it's like, what, a year ago? They probably get another year before the next one comes out?
It's been 8 months or something like that, yeah. It's almost a year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's been more than that. I think, I've said this before. What Blizzard should have done with this expansion is either I think they should have kept the artifact weapons, drain some of the power, and kind of make that part of the storyline for them taking away some of the abilities but adding new ones, or just lowering the number of abilities so that it evens out with the Heart of Azeroth. You know, the idea would be you drain some of the power from your artifact, so you lose some of the abilities, and they can take away some of the stuff and balance it out with the Heart of Azeroth that gives you new abilities. I think that would have been a good way to do it. Or you could have kept you could have just kept everything as it was with the artifact weapon and just not gain any more power on the artifact weapon, no more artifact power. And all you do is you get sockets for your artifact weapon to increase its item level. I think that would have been great. And the Heart of Azeroth would have been the new way to go further. I think gutting the whole system and taking it away was a giant mistake. They took away probably 3 to 4 abilities from each class and spec. And then on top of that, took away a lot of change. Like, that was a big change. Like,
it completely ruined the flow of fire mages, because you had that extra ability. It was on a 45-second cooldown and had 2 charges, and it was an instant AoE that always crit and added to your hot streak. Now you have to choose between that and the one that takes your Fire Blast, adds a 3rd charge, and reduces the cooldown by 6 seconds. So, like, Fire Blast is still the one to take because it lets you do more Pyroblast.
It's a complete nerf on a class that didn't need it.
It's just it feels so bad because in fights that are long enough, you don't get any hot streaks, and nothing is more depressing than like fireball, hot streak, and hot streak's gone, or not hot streak, heating up because you need 2 crits in a row, right? So it's just constantly seeing nothing, and then that one little half thing pop up, and then it go away, and then pop up and go away. It's like, motherfucker, I just need 2 fucking crits in a row. Can I just please? So in order to force that, you got to use your 2 charges of Fire Blast, and then your fucking 45-second cooldown Phoenix Flame. It's just, it never feels right. It always feels like you're just casting fireballs and shit, and everything's always on cooldown. It feels like shit. It felt really good in Legion. It feels like shit now. And now they're just telling people to pump points into versatility and mastery for the damage over time damage.
It's a shit show that should have never happened. Even if they wanted to take away the artifact weapons, which I think is stupid and should not ever have even been thought of as a concept. The idea of going from an artifact weapon to LOL epic weapons again is just not even to legendary, to epic weapons. Like, how fucking stupid are you?
Yeah, especially because all the fucking weapons you get as a mage, it's like, guess what? You picked up a wand that's 30 item levels higher than your staff, but good luck finding that offhand. You know, like, it's such a shitty fucking system.
You can't transmog a wand into a staff and shit like that. It is so stupid. Like, just get it over with. Bring back the artifacts. Undo your mistake. Okay? Be humble and come out and say, we fucked up. We're giving you artifact weapons back, the old ones, and we're rebalancing it with the Heart of Azeroth. The Heart of Azeroth doesn't even add anything, so you could just give it back, and it's not going to change anything in any massive way.
It's
Yeah,
not
you're
that I
gonna have
mind
to
the
rebalance
weapons.
encounters and shit, but fuck
I don't
off.
mind
Like,
not having the weapons. I miss having the abilities that came with the weapons and being able to
yeah, of
have those be
course.
independent of your talents.
Okay. So if they wanted to take the weapons away,
And I really
which,
hate the idea of finding fucking wands that are better than a staff and you don't have an offhand for it. I fucking hate that. They need to get rid of that. Get rid of wands. The whole point of wands in vanilla was that you could put them in your wand slot so that if you get someone down to a sliver of health, you don't have to sit there and cast. You just hit your wand button and he wands them. It's not supposed to be a primary fucking weapon. If you want to use an offhand, use a fucking sword.
who the fuck cares about wands from Harry Potter anyways? Listen.
Oh, it's so dumb.
I
always said that if I was a wizard in Harry Potter, I would just get my wand like installed into my arm so I could just cast with my hands. But wands are dumb.
I was gonna say this, but so if you want to take the weapons out of the game, which again I agree was a bad idea, but if you wanted to remove those weapons, a smart thing would have been to bake all of the abilities and the passives into the fucking class, or move a lot of them over to the Heart of Azeroth as an innate ability. Like they're already there. A lot of the passive stuff could have moved over to the Heart of Azeroth, and they're already there on top of whatever you're going to add to that.
I mean,
those
mages
abilities
lost their blink
just
heal.
get learned. Yeah, it's so fucking stupid. And it's this weird system of like, don't you, everybody wants vanilla back, so let's make it more like that, where people can't heal that easily and shit like that. Like, that's fucking lame. Okay.
And it would have been fine if mages had like, you know, competitive DPS or some sort of survivability, but they fucking don't. They have nothing. They have nothing to offer right now.
Well, they've created this system where, like, as a paladin, I can easily solo content because I have a self-heal. But I can't, I struggle as a warrior, and my item level's high enough that I can do it with most things, but I struggle as a warrior to try and get Bloodthirst to heal me for any fucking good amount whatsoever. And they're just so afraid. They're afraid you're going to solo content. You just stop being afraid, okay?
There's enough fucking content in the game to keep people
like
playing.
Fucking trucks. Don't fucking worry about me soloing shit. Oh my god, with this fucking Death Knight soloed a fucking raid from the last tier. Who fucking cares? It's fucking irrelevant now. Stop being so fucking namby-pamby about shit. You have to bake those abilities back. And at this point, the best you could do, I guess, is just give back those abilities. At least you could give the abilities back. And not in the forms of talents. In the forms of they're baked into the fucking class.
It would have made perfect sense to add a new talent tier and then take your fucking abilities from the weapons and put them in that new talent tier, but they fucking didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was three
They
fucking
replaced
abilities.
other shit, and now it's competing against other things. And it's fucked up because every
I
other
don't know
tier...
why they're so fucking afraid to add more talent tiers. What the fuck?
I mean, every other fucking talent tier for mages anyway, like there's an obvious choice. Except for that one tier. Where you need both and you can't fucking have it.
One of the coolest fucking things about expansions back in the day was you'd get a new ability. There'd be a new ability in your spell book as you leveled up, and there'd be a new talent row. And it was exciting. Like, oh man, we get another 3 talents to choose from based off our spec, and we get a new ability, and sometimes even 2 if you go back to like Wrath of the Lich King and shit. Now it's like, how many fucking expansions have we had where they haven't added anything like that? They got away with it in Legion because artifacts were basically a new talent system, but I don't know why they fucking regress so heavily with fucking Heart of Azeroth. There's no new abilities on this shit. People like passive stuff, I guess. Yeah. Like,
no, passive stuff is necessary because otherwise you don't fucking feel powerful.
That passive stuff needs to be...
passive, it could have just been baked in. I don't know why they don't just bake that shit in to when you level.
Absolutely. It has to be done. It's fucking stupid. There's so much good shit that's just not in the game now because it was there in Legion. How do you go from Legion, which is probably one of the most celebrated expansions in terms of in a long time that you've put out since the Burning Crusade and shit, and people are like, this is fucking great. And then you're like, yeah, let's take that shit away. I mean, the least you could have done was bake that shit in and then drop everybody down to legendary weapons. You just came from an expansion where you had like fucking 40 legendaries. And you're going to tell me that you're like, yep, no more legendaries at all. Not a single fucking legendary. People are like, hey, we want more legendaries, and you put them all in the game, and then some people complain, but most people like it. And it wasn't the problem with legendaries, it's the problem with how you acquired legendaries, with it being random. You fix it to where you can just grind it out and nobody fucking complains anymore. And then you take them out of the game and bump us back down the fucking epics. Listen, just all you had to do was go, okay, there's no more legendary items that you wear, but there's all the weapons are legendary now. That's all you had to do.
We're talking about World of Warcraft. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because I'm going to go straight into Witcher 3 after this.
Oh, okay, so. I didn't know this was a live podcast.
Well, that changes everything.
I would have dropped the N-bomb a lot more. Nigeria. All right, so, I don't fucking get it. It's such bad decision making. Whoever's at the fucking top over there needs to get their shit together. It can still be saved. You got to let go of this Heart of Azeroth shit and stop trying to just. It's like that meme, It's not gonna be a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing. The best thing you could do with the Heart of Azeroth right now is make it more like artifact weapons. Okay? Give us back the 3 abilities. I still think you should have gave us all the passive shit, but whatever. Put that aside. That's a lot of balancing you'd have to do, and I'm not going to expect you to do that. It's Blizzard, for fuck's sake. That's not how they work. They fucking wait every time they make an expansion and something's majorly broken or something people's not happy about, they just wait till the next expansion to fix it, and then they stand up on a stage like they did something amazing and they announce it like, versatility gone. Hey, everybody like that? Expertise gone. Hit rating gone. Yeah, no shit. It's fucking garbage, and we've been complaining the whole expansion about it. Why not gone during a patch, you fucks? We waited for the expansion to do it. Okay, so I get it. You're not going to put all the passive shit in because it'd be too much for you to balance because you're too busy jerking your dinglings over some stupid shit. But put the 3 fucking core abilities for each spec back into the fucking game. Bake those in. You can even make it a talent row, man. You've done this before. You've done fucking overhauls to talent trees during patches before. Do it. Just fucking do it. Okay? Make a fucking new talent tree and put those 3 abilities on it. Don't fucking put it in a row that already fucking existed, that people were already taking abilities from. That's just fucking scummy. Oh, here's an ability you had already, and now you learned it, but it's a talent. What? Fuck off.
It makes no fucking sense. It's like
go fuck yourself. You're just weaker. Gutting classes.
It's just another testament to like your character's not getting more powerful. It's all the fucking weapons and gear that you have on. It's like you're not learning shit as like for character progression. You're just some fucking pleb in really nice clothes. It's fucking dumb. More of that shit needs to be baked into your actual character and not just like, oh look, I picked up a weapon that lets me do all this shit. Fuck that. Especially with characters that don't rely on weapons, like lore-wise. Like, I don't know, mages, warlocks. Maybe that kind of makes sense for warriors.
How long are you going to keep me interested after this next patch? How long before I'm like, fuck it? Not long. Because what you reap is what you sow. Oh, sorry, that was my edgelord moment. That's from a song.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's fucking cringy. I'm just so fucking done with this game developer, and it's a goddamn shame because it's a 15-year-old game that I've played for 15 fucking years, and they had their major ups, and then they had their downs with like warlords and fucking Mr. Pandaria. And I don't give a fuck who you are. Mr. Pandaria was shit. Okay, it wasn't shit all over.
It was pretty shit.
I mean, there were a lot of good systems, but the fucking lore was shit. The fucking setting was shit. You want to go to China? No, I don't want to go to China and fucking get a disease and not eat. Fuck off. look, this fat pandas. Well, that doesn't represent China in the least.
Yeah, it's racist.
I mean, Chinese people are skinny because they're fucking communists. Anyways. And then they go to warlords. And listen, I liked certain things. I like the garrisons. Fuck off. People are like, it's a Facebook game. The whole fucking game is a Facebook game. You log in and do your fucking dailies or run your mythic dungeons. It's the same thing. Shut up. Okay? The problem wasn't with the garrisons. You had a problem with the mission system, which still exists, by the way. The fucking thing that people complained about is what they kept. They kept the thing that people complained about. See, this is the problem. People complain and they won't shut the fuck up about other things. They start convoluting stuff. It's like, hey, does anybody else think that it's a Facebook game? Yeah, it's like a Facebook game. I feel like I just log in and I just do my Facebook stuff and then I log out of the game and I don't come back
at the same time. Games like Stardew Valley are universally praised. It's like, it's fucking Farmville, dude.
And then it's a people, Facebook game. Then you get these fucking mouth breathers that come in. Yeah, I don't feel like there's any community. It's yo dog, it's me, your boy Asmongold, and there's no community in my garrison. It's just me by myself.
Just ask these 40 people that I'm doing a transmog contest with.
And I'm doing a subscriber.
No one here thinks that there's a community.
I feel like there's no community because everybody sits in their garrison. No, they don't. Because there's no auction house at the garrison. Go to a capital city. That's where everybody's at. Just like right now. That's where everybody's at. People didn't hang out in their garrison. And they didn't hang out in their... I don't know. Like, what the fuck were people doing? Role-playing with NPCs? You know what I did? I logged in. I sent my people on fucking missions. And then I went and did shit. Not at my garrison.
You don't even need to do that by logging in anymore. There's an app for that. Like, you could just go onto the fucking app on your phone, send everyone out on missions, and collect all your shit.
So Blizzard takes garrisons out of the game for the next expansion, which, by the way, was essentially player housing, which people have been asking for since vanilla. They take the player housing out of the game, and they keep the mission board. And
they give you a class hall.
A class hall that you can't modify, you can't change to fit what you like about it.
I mean, I'm fine with. I don't really give a fuck about base building.
You know what I loved about garrisons was the same thing I loved from Miss Pandaria, was that I could grow a fucking herb farm in my garrison, and I have a paladin who does enchanting and inscription, okay? And she's been like that since inscription came out. And it's not very lucrative because I don't get herbs. So I'd have to normally go on a character that I get herbs on, like my hunter, and transfer those over to her. But with the garrison, I could just log in the day and go fucking do that. And I don't have to go fly around competing for herbs with people. You know what fucking sucks? I'll tell you what fucking sucks. Trying to get herbs right now in BFA. You know why it fucking sucks? Because there's no flying. And you know what's going to fucking suck? When I get flying, it's still going to fucking suck because I got to fly everywhere. I got to fly everywhere. Oh, is there a node over here? I don't know. Let's go hope. Let's hope there's a node. Hey, there's a node. Let me go down and pick it up. Okay, I got to fly to the next one. Oh, let me pick that up. But in my garrison it was here's 20 fucking nodes. Collect them all. Log off the fucking game and go play an alt or go play something else more interesting instead of spending 2 hours flying around picking fucking flowers. Nobody wants to do that. But for some reason, because vanilla...
I mean, you're the fucking hero of Azeroth. You should be hiring people to do that shit for you.
Exactly. I don't want to
Slightly off subject, but are you guys looking to get Warcraft 3 Reforged? I think I will. No, not at all.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. I'm going to play the shit out of that. You should play it with me, too. It's not going to be expensive.
I don't care. I never played Warcraft. I don't really like strategy games.
It's not really a strategy game. It's a hero game. You control a hero most of the time. It's more like an RPG.
It looks a lot like StarCraft, where you just click and drag a bunch of people and move them.
It's not like that at all. In fact, StarCraft was when they were making StarCraft, people were worried that they were going to do heroes like they did in Warcraft 3. People that care about RTS. Yeah, Warcraft 3 is mostly controlling heroes during a story campaign. It's fun. You should get it. It'll be great. The custom games are pretty fun too.
Even if you don't give a fuck about the lore?
Even if you don't give a fuck about the lore, it's fun. It's a fun little campaign to play.
Well, whatever. Still probably not, but we'll see. Yeah, $30. Okay, then. You know what I'm more excited for that's also $30? Layers of Fear 2 comes out on Tuesday. I really like the first one. And this is how you know people don't really know what the fuck they want, especially when it comes to like horror games. Layers of Fear 2 came out, and it was actually pretty fucking scary. Like, the graphics were really good. The atmosphere was really good. It was like this... It was linear, but it didn't feel linear because you were kind of exploring this house and you were a guy that was going insane. And they did a lot of creative shit where, like, you know, you would go and look at something and turn around, the environment had changed, and a lot of like mindfuck kind of maze shit. And people were bitching. It's like, it's all jump scares and atmosphere. It's like, yeah. Like, I don't get it.
What atmosphere?
What do you want out of horror? If it's not jump scares and it's not shock value and it's not atmosphere, like there's nothing left. There's nothing left. Even like with horror movies. Horror movie was just a bunch of jump scares. It sucked.
Or atmosphere. Like, that's what a horror movie is. When you're in a dark place by yourself and nobody's there, but you feel like somebody could be, that's atmosphere.
No, Monty, that's not the one where the chick has a baby on a table.
Oh man, that's a classic. What is that game? That's is that Outlast 2?
Maybe, but Layers of Fear 2 takes place on a boat, and I think you're an actor, and you're still going insane. So it's the same kind of theme of actor or artist going insane, but instead of being a painter, you're an actor. And I don't know, looks pretty good.
That's not Outlast 2. What game is that where the baby is like, there's like a fucked up baby on a table? Oh, it is Outlast 2. It's Outlast 2. It's not a baby. The second, the ending is the baby is born, but then you come across like a woman's body that's decapitated, and she looks like she was pregnant, but it's really because they just stuffed shit inside of her, and there's like a fucking severed head coming out of her vagina. Yeah, that game's fucked up.
I didn't play the second one because I didn't really like the first one.
But I mean, other than atmosphere and jump scares, what else is there? Gore porn? That's about it in terms of horror. I don't know any horror game that's not those things.
Yeah.
What else is there?
I don't know. You tell me, man, because
These
people
are
bitch about it.
fucking retarded,
like,
man.
Layers of
Jesus
Fear
Christ.
was one of the fucking scariest games that of its time, and it came out like right on the tail end of the Outlast Amnesia kind of craze that was going on.
is considered one of the best horror games of all time, and it's all atmosphere.
Yeah, it's not even that good of a game.
There's
I'm
like
sorry,
3 encounters with a fucking monster, and
I don't like the games where you fucking hide most of the time. That's why I didn't like Alien Isolation, really, because it's like,
and there's jump scares, by the way, with the wind blowing and shit.
I mean, it's just Amnesia started this thing of you're defenseless and you need to hide. And I think Resident Evil 7 proved that you don't need to be defenseless to make a scary fucking game.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Resident Evil 2 proved that as well. I think
all of the Resident Evils prove
that. It's certainly a thing. Like, I don't mind the whole concept of that. I don't mind at all the idea of you're defenseless and have no weapons. That's fine.
I don't know. I guess these people just, they get way too emotionally invested in the game, right? And they're like, oh, is he gonna find me in the locker? He's gonna find me in the locker? Oh my god, he's gonna find me in the locker. Like, and I'm just sitting there like, can we get on with it? Like, just either fucking kill me or go away. Like, stop pacing in front of the fucking locker for like 30 fucking minutes. Do something.
Don't put lockers and patrolling enemies and shit like that in your game where you don't have any weapons. I think regardless of what you think about it, I think Alien Isolation did a great job there. I think that's, if you're going to do a thing where you have a patrolling enemy, you have to give the player ways to move the enemy's attention somewhere else. Because sitting in a locker for 5 minutes on stream while the fucking guy just camps you is not, it's not fun.
Well, my problem with Alien Isolation is it's always like knee-jerk reaction. I need to hit him with a flamethrower so I can continue on, right? It's not like, oh, I need to problem solve and use my environment or do this or that. It's always just like, I guess I'll wait him out.
Well, yes and no.
It's just like that game in particular, like you got to get from point A to point B, and the alien is just an obstacle that just gets annoying. It's not even like a threat at a certain point. It's just annoying. Yeah, Resident Evil 7 did a little bit of a mix with the patrolling dad thing, but you can also shoot that guy to stun him.
Yep.
You couldn't kill him. He kept coming back. And it
Yeah,
was
I
only
think
like the first like 25% of the game, and he didn't follow you around forever. Like he followed you at a certain point, and then when you get to another point, he stops. Like I mean, that's about as much as I can take of running. Plus, you know, it's more running and less hiding. But I mean, again, there's a balance because Outlast 1, you could hide, but it never worked. But like, you could just sprint through that entire game. That's all you need to do. Just fucking sprint from everyone.
I think the problem with Outlast is it's too repetitive. It's trying to put you in a horrific situation constantly. I do think that Resident Evil 7 perfectly figured out the genre in that way, where you start defenseless and then you become less defenseless. I think that is how video games need to be treated when it comes to horror. And a game like Alien Isolation, it falls victim to the same thing that Outlast does, just repetition of the same thing over and over. You need to escalate, or you need to escalate in some way, either by empowering the player or through use of clever mechanics of the game or something like that.
I gotta do something. But Layers of Fear is more like you are defenseless, but there's only like 1 or 2 parts where you can actually die. The rest of it is trying to figure out where to go and solve some pretty basic-ish puzzles. But it's really just, I mean, I really appreciate that game from a game development standpoint and level design standpoint, because they do some really interesting shit with how the world changes around you, especially when you don't see it coming. Like, there's lots of times where you just walk into a dead end and turn around and what was behind you is not there anymore, and it's just completely fucking different. And some people might say it's overused, but I say it's underused in a lot of other games. Like, you hardly ever see that kind of thing. So if you haven't played Layers of Fear,
it's almost like that Silent Hill haunting thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a mind fuck. It's like Inception, right? Like they do things that can never be done in real life that defy physics, and it really gets you to think about where you're going and what to do in a completely different way. But people are like, it's all jump scares, because like sometimes you'll go and you'll pick something up and you'll turn around and it'll be like a pile of books in the shape of a person that just falls down, and it was right behind you, and people are like, oh god, jump scare, fuck that, fuck jump scare. Like, why? Like, that was pretty fucking cool. Did it scare you? Yeah, it scared me.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7 does a good job also in that, you know, they use the videotape as another opportunity to make you defenseless playing as the camera guy. And that segment is just creepy. You know, you don't even see anybody until the end, but the whole thing is creepy. Because, you know, you're in that house as you're watching this shit. And then that happens, and you really expect something to happen when you come out of that video. And now you're like, oh shit, is there a fucking guy roaming around here doing this shit? I mean,
and how many times did it happen in Outlast where you walk up to a table with something on it and you click on it, and I don't remember if you see a cutscene or if you read something, but it's like a good 5 minutes that you're interacting with this table or whatever was on the table. And then it puts you up and you look up from the table, and I said it out loud. I don't know if you remember. It's like, I'm going to turn around. There's going to be someone behind me. And sure. I turn around. There's someone behind me.
Appreciate.
Like, it's so fucking predictable. But it had good atmosphere. I mean, for its day. I mean, the graphics don't hold up that well. It's a lot of really dark, muddy textures and shit that are kind of distracting. And a lot of fucking night vision, which, I mean, I'm over it. I'm over the night vision thing. You know, I saw the Paris Hilton tape. We're good. We're good on that.
Yeah, that was horrifying. I think they should have gone away from the night vision in the second game instead of trying to make it their thing.
Yeah, I mean, And Resident Evil, I think, did it right. Except, I would have liked to have been able to control when the flashlight goes in and out. But
I understand that, like, oh, it's night vision, so you can see in the dark, but other people can't. But
they can, is the thing.
They can, because
it's
they're
AI.
In the dark. Well, firstly, they're in the dark. Then unless you're in, so the way night vision works is it picks up small amounts of light and amplifies it. So if there's small amounts of light, people that are in the dark are eventually going to be able to see in the dark. That's how it works with the human eyeball.
Unless it's pitch dark, but that's hard to come by.
The only thing night vision does is, from a tactical standpoint, gives you a bit of an advantage at nighttime over an enemy that's not using night vision, because you can see more clearly. So you can see more details, like an enemy on the hill or something like that. It's not going to make you, not only that, but unless you're walking around with the fucking thing up to your eyeball, which he doesn't do, he opens the viewfinder and puts that up to his face. The fucking image from the viewfinder is going to light up your fucking face. So the smarter thing to do would be, instead of burning your batteries on night vision, turn the fucking light on the camera. Like, why not just use a flashlight system where you have to cover the end of the flashlight to hide or something like that? Like,
it could get pretty involved. I mean, my uncle was in the military. He gave me this tip that I'll never use, but he says, like, if you're ever using night vision and it's too dark for even night vision, like if there's absolutely nothing for it to pick up, you can take duct tape and wrap it around your glow stick. You know, those like snappy sticks, right?
Yeah.
You take that and you wrap it around your glow stick and then snap it and then just use that like a flashlight. And since it's so dim, it works pretty well with night vision. Like, can you imagine a game where eventually your night vision doesn't work and you don't have a flashlight and you got to use glow sticks?
Yeah.
It's a little convoluted.
I think that would have been great. You know, if you look back on Penumbra used glow sticks for visuals and a flashlight. And I think the flashlight is a better approach. And I just came up with a mechanic off the top of my head. You hide by covering up the flashlight and fucking being quiet. Like, that's,
or just turning it off.
I mean,
well, how about this? You know how, like, they're constantly trying to convince you that flashlight batteries only last for about 2 minutes before they die?
Yeah.
They make these flashlights that have like a capacitor on the inside that you shake, right? And the static charges the capacitor. So it'd be kind of cool if, like, when your flashlight goes out, you have to shake the flashlight, but it makes noise that gives away your position.
Well, not only that, but now you're in pitch black, right? And you can't see what's in front of you. That's a horrifying element for humans, to not be able to see what's around them. You know, that goes back to baser instincts against predators and the idea of them coming up behind you. Also, you don't have to do a battery system. You can just do a system of the flashlight gets you caught. So you got to turn the flashlight off and fuck around in the dark, but you can't fucking see anything. So you go walk right into an enemy.
And this, I mean, I hate to be citing Dead Rising.
I used to have one of those military flashlights.
Dead Rising was like one of the first games where you can pick up like anything and use it as a weapon. Like in a survival situation like Outlast, why are you not like picking up chairs or like breaking glass and making shivs and like using all this shit as weapons? Like, nope, you got no weapons. Like, well, I can't find a fucking gun, so I guess like you can't even punch. Like, if someone comes after you, like, how come in every horror game you just basically take it in the ass? Why don't you like bite and punch and kick? Like, why don't you have these things available? You know?
Yeah, like a struggle mechanic. If you get grabbed, you struggle and try to fight them off.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
literally fighting for your fucking life.
I think this goes back to Resident Evil 7 doing it perfectly. Like, you cannot have the entire game being a useless, weak shit. You can't do it. You have to have some kind of ramp up, or you might as well have a fucking 15-minute game, because that's all the game is 15 minutes over and over.
Yeah. Well, according to Bungie, that's all you need.
Oh, God. Here comes the big guy. Hide in the locker.
Yeah.
Okay, he's gone. Get out of the locker. Creep around for a bit. Up. Big guy's patrolling now. Hide in the locker. He patrolled by, get out of the locker, slowly sneak past him. Or, just do what DJ Wheat did through his whole playthrough of Outlast. Run everywhere at all times. Oh no, you died. Try again. Run everywhere.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Resident Evil is so scary is most of it has to do with the idea of, fuck, I got to do all that over again.
Yeah, or
I don't want to die and have to go back to the fucking save the last time I saved. Oh no, I don't want to fucking die. That can be part of the fear as well. So if you if you make a game like Outlast and you just put the checkpoint right before the point where you die, what's the point?
Yeah.
Here's an idea.
Old school Resident Evil and hardcore mode Resident Evil 2 remake. There aren't checkpoints.
Here's an idea. Instead of dying, you get caught and put into a worse situation. And every time you get caught, you get put back into that situation where you have to get out of a more difficult area dealing with enemies. So every time you get back to that guy, it's like, fuck, if I get caught again, I got to go back and do all this shit again. And it creates a situation of now it removes people's, like when you don't have any kind of real threat. The reason why people run through Outlast is because there's no threat against it. If you die, you just start right back at the beginning of that encounter.
Yeah.
So you just try again and try again. But if it sets you back like an hour of time, people are then going to do your mechanic of sneaking around and trying to avoid the enemy that you intended on. This is basic shit, people. I mean, my God.
Yeah, well, the problem was if Outlast didn't have checkpoints, it would be a real shit show because the AI is so inconsistent.
Tell you what, if I changed my mind, if I could have a superpower, I just want to be able to make a game as soon as I think about it. Just it exists. Like
you'd want to be a technopath. That'd be a cool power.
I'm so good at this.
Modify technology and shit just by touching it or thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm so good at this game development thing.
You can make a fucking mech
making
suit.
Money. Somebody pay me money.
Well, you didn't go to school.
Well, it's not like that fucking.
You're untested. You're untested. No one's gonna risk that.
I just
don't make fucking Anthem.
I just fucking gave it to him. What do you mean untested? Tell me that's not a brilliant fucking idea. Solving all their fucking problems. One fucking.
That's the problem with the workplace nowadays. No one hires anyone for brains anymore. So, like, what can you... Okay, yeah, you have good ideas, but can you also, like, code all that shit?
Well, look at Blizzard.
Can you pick up the slack from work at Blizzard were terrible programmers?
Most of the people that work for Blizzard in high positions were guys that just played video games, and they were like, okay, you're the best at that, so you gotta... I mean, Ian Hazacostas, before he fucking worked for Blizzard in Wrath of the Lich King in Burning Crusade, would make YouTube videos of him and his guild on how to clear a certain raid or something like that, or a certain encounter. Like, that's what he did. And then they brought him on for that. I mean, I don't know if he applied or what. Fucking Alex Afrasabi, who's in charge of lore. The guy does lore with Chris Metzen for the longest time. He was in EverQuest guild called Elitist Jerks. That was the name of his guild. And they were in EverQuest guild, and he's got this famous rant, okay? Where he goes off. I thought that was
Jeff.
Jeff had one too. Jeff had one too, man. By the way, Alex Afrasabi's fucking name, his fucking character name, Führer. His name was Führer. He called people retard and gay.
Yeah, it was a different time.
He fucking went off on people, man. And it was beautiful.
Yeah, you know, they just fucking ban your fucking post. Say hate speech. That's hate speech.
Jeff also played EverQuest and was in the same guild, I think. I think they were both in the same guild. Jeff's stuff is easier to find. You know, he went by the name T-Goal.
Yep.
and he had like a Legacy of Steel was his guild, is what it was. I mean, like the last post he ever made was, "If you want something done right, this week I accepted a position as associate game designer with Blizzard Entertainment." I fucking, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I would do it too. If someone's out there listening to this podcast and you think we got good ideas, we are available.
Here's his most famous post: "Fix your goddamn buggy bullshit half-assed encounters. The amount of time we dedicated to get our keys to see this guy die and take a turn at the Emperor is just sick. Finally see blood die only to have the entire raid DT'd from anywhere in the room was simply an insult." You know, he goes on and on. He says some pretty crazy shit. But in nothing, like Alex was a fucking, oh man, Alex was
Alex was
Alex was like way fucking way more like kind of like we are. Like much more aggressive. Like he was pretty crazy. I'm gonna try to bring it up. You go ahead.
Put you on the spot. I got
dance,
nothing to
monkey.
Say. No, I mean, it's just, it seems fucking dumb that, like, back in the day you could say all this shit and it'll get you a job, and nowadays you say shit like that and it gets you deplatformed. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
I mean, like, if someone were to ask me, do you think you could be like lead game design? Like, you don't have to code, you don't have to draw, you don't have to come with art.
Easy.
Can you sit there and like fucking conduct the orchestra and make this game come out right? Just using your brain and telling people what to do? The answer is yes. I could fucking do that. No problem.
Easy. This is the easiest fucking job.
But apparently you got to know someone, or you have to have, you know, ranted about something 15 years ago on the internet, or you have to be multi-talented. You got to be able to fucking code or do artwork and, you know, back up the team, right? Like, I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's downsizing and shit, but look, it doesn't take that much to play a bunch of video games and then know what makes a good video game and why. And part of, I mean, well, you would think that, but then you get people that are like, Fortnite's awesome. So maybe that's it. Maybe you have these idiots making shitty games because people like shitty games now, you know? I mean, granted, there are games I don't like. Like, I don't really like Sekiro, but I wouldn't say it's a shitty game. I just don't agree with the fucking design decisions they made. And I wish I had an example of a game that, you know, had really good design decisions, but it just plays like shit. But I don't, really. Because usually if you can't think of a good idea, you probably don't have the wherewithal to, you know, execute it. I mean, can you think of one? I can't think of one.
I mean, you're talking about Blizzard bringing guys in that have no experience making video games.
Yeah, and sometimes you get Jeff Kaplan, and sometimes you get Ian Hazzikostas.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it. It's a risk, but swear to God, I can do it.
And I think it's crazy because some of the most successful shit they did, now they're all corporate. Like, they act corporate and shit. Doing all this crazy shit where they, you know, they bring people in based off of their fucking, you know. What's your time at fucking
I really think that instead of all this schooling, we should just go back to like the master apprentice system or like the mentor system. Like, you go up to someone with a lot of money who's successful and you say, I'll work for, you know, a living wage for 5 to 10 years and just follow you around and help you out and kind of be your assistant. And in return, you teach me the way so I can be as successful as you one day. No one fucking does that anymore. Right? Yeah. I guess Blizzard does, but again, you end up with Ian Hazzikostas. Because I guess like once you put so much time into someone, you don't want to just, you know, cut your losses.
Right.
God, I wish they still release their sub numbers because I would love to see what they are.
I don't know why you'd put the guy that's done raids his whole life in charge of it.
Yeah, that makes no fucking sense to me. And even the raids aren't that good, apparently, so. It's all the same shit. Avoid this, soak this, heal through this, tank through this. Like, come on. You gotta come up with something. Something different.
Right. I don't... Blizzard, man. What is going on?
I don't know. Anyway, why don't you talk about Game of Thrones for a minute, and I'm going to grab a drink.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. What's there to say? It's a television series. Ran for 8 seasons. It's based off of a book series called A Song of Ice and Fire. A book series that is yet to be completed by George R. Lazy Ass Martin. Sorry, taking a sip of lemonade because it's 84 fucking degrees in my fucking room. My computer's not gonna make it. But yeah. Everybody's coming down on the writers, Dan and Dave. Night Terror included. I think it's not fair. Because George Martin could have finished that book. You know, if you look back at the releases of the books, you got the first 2 books have like 2 years between them. Or maybe it's the first 3 books or something like that. And then they start to get further and further apart. And then you look at George Martin and you realize that he stopped writing those books to go on and write other books. Like he took breaks from A Song of Ice and Fire so he could write other bullshit that he wanted to do. Which, I mean, he's his prerogative, I guess, but he's also a very dramatic shill. You know, he's got his blog because he thinks people give a fuck about his opinion, and he goes on and on it about fucking bullshit. You know, his life is a black abyss and all this fucking ridiculous nonsense. He's very delicate. You know, he's a very delicate person. Easy to upset. He's like a butterfly. But he can write some shit, that's for sure. I think he's a good writer. I think most people would say that he's a bad writer because of the ending of Game of Thrones. Of course, I guess most people would try to pin that on Dan and Dave, who's really only what they...
All right, sorry, I'm back. Can you say that again?
This kind of goes back to what we were talking about with World of Warcraft and the garrison system. People were complaining about a Facebook thing, and then so they kept the Facebook thing and removed the garrison because it got so convoluted. It started as one thing, and you know, we've talked about this many a times. You know, we have the transgender bathroom thing here in North Carolina that started as, you know, people on the left side of the political field trying to force private owned companies like hotels to build, basically, or not build, but allow transgender people into their bathrooms. Now, then you have people from the right side of the field that come in and they're like, well, listen, as a principled person that says the government has no right to meddle in a business's affairs, I think, A, that's unconstitutional and bullshit, and B, you're going to hurt the business. You know, what if there's people that go to a business in, say, Alabama, and they're not, you know, all of Alabama. I'm not going to say all of Alabama is this way, but hypothetically speaking, let's say all of Alabama, you know, doesn't really kind of go for that kind of shit, right? Like if they went into a place and it said transgender people welcome in our bathrooms, you think they're going to use the bathroom? Some of those types of people, like, they lose business because some people are really principled and they're going to go to, regardless of whether you think they're morally correct or not. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, those people don't deserve to shop there. Well, it's not about the people. It's about the fucking business. You know, the business is losing customers because you're forcing them to fucking conform to your SJW's nonsense when nobody was complaining in the first place about who the fuck is using a bathroom. So then it gets convoluted, right? Because then the left side pulls even harder and the right side pulls even harder. And before you know it, it turns into, ain't gonna be no transgenders in my fucking bathroom. And then you better let them fucking piss wherever they want. Like, it gets out of control. And
does this have something to do with Game of Thrones, or did I miss something?
I think Game of Thrones is the same way. I think people... I think it got convoluted and people are saying the wrong thing and need to be careful about how they speak about Game of Thrones, because then it's going to lead us to a situation where with prequels or whatever, it's going to be convoluted, and people in the future that try to write shit or emulate something like Game of Thrones are going to miss the point of what made it bad. You know, a lot of art and entertainment learns lessons from past mistakes and success. And back in the day, it used to not be so convoluted about what was good and bad, but we live in the information age where every fucking opinion gets out there. So right now you have people saying two things. You have people saying that the season was too short and there need to be more seasons, or it needed to be a longer season. And then you have people, and they're saying that it was rushed, plots were rushed, and the end of the show was rushed. Everything was great until they rushed it. And then you got people over here going, Dan and Dave are terrible writers. They only ever wrote good all the way up to like season 4. It was good because they were going off George Martin's books. And then once they ran out of that material, it got bad and the writing was bad. But the writing's not bad because it's not.
Monty says people complained about seeing Theon's dick, so they cut it off.
So they. You hit this stride where... God,
I'm sorry.
You hit this stride where, like, George Martin wrote these books, and he has it planned out, and he talked to Dan and Dave, and this has been said time and time again. I don't know how many times it needs to be reiterated. It has been said time and time again. And people are kind of daft to things, so I'll spell it out for people in Crown, because I know they need it. The ending of Game of Thrones is George Martin's ending. He gave that ending to them. He's even said in interviews multiple, and people cite the same interview I'm about to talk about to claim that Dan and Dave changed the ending. There's an interview where he says, well, when you change a couple people, it gets out of control, and before you know it, you gotta do things that aren't going to happen in the books. You know, in the books, there's going to be some different things going on with certain characters. He's talking about specific characters. He's not talking about the overall story. For example, if you don't put Lady Stoneheart in your show, but the Lady Stoneheart exists in the book, now you have now you have what was it? What's his fucking name? God damn it!
The Barricade.
The Barricade. Now you have him running around where he doesn't exist in the books, and now you're giving you have to give Lady Stoneheart's character to other people or a different person, and that's just it doesn't. You can do that and not change the overall ending of the story, but it's going to be a different journey to some degree. And that's what he said. You know, he talks about, for example, Littlefinger. Book Littlefinger is everybody's friend. Nobody distrusts Littlefinger. Everybody thinks he's, somebody that's not to be feared or afraid of. So everybody trusts Littlefinger. In the show, nobody trusts Littlefinger, right? So he talks about those little differences and how they can change things. But the story in that same interview, that he's specifically talking about little characters, and they ask him, like, is it going to have any impact on stuff like it? Doesn't have any fucking impact on the end story. Okay. Because he talks about how he sat in he gives them, he wrote a couple episodes because he's not a script writer, but he wrote a couple episodes. So he's not there writing content. If you want to say that he was writing stuff, you really have to say that Dan and Dave were borrowing stuff from the books. But that's also not true, and it's not a fair assessment, because Robb Stark's wife, who gets stabbed in the stomach in the show, arguably one of the most, that is a very jarring moment for most people who see the Red Wedding for the first time, is suddenly this guy walks over and just starts stabbing her in the stomach. That's the start of the Red Wedding. She's not even there in the fucking book. Okay? She's not even a fucking person that's there in the book. The fucking woman that's pregnant is a side character. She may not even be pregnant in the book. I don't even remember. She's such an unnamed fucking unknown who cares about character. She's not even fucking there. Okay? So you can't say that something that's good like that belonged to George Martin. Okay? There are plenty of changes in the show that the book doesn't do that are better than the fucking book. Likewise, there are things that are not in the show that are good and should have been put in. And a lot of people think, it should have been put in. I think Lady Stoneheart should have been put in. It would have been pretty cool. And it would have made people go, what? That's crazy. Catelyn Stark is back and she's fucking people up. But where does that lead to? We don't know because the book hasn't gotten there. The last thing we heard of Lady Stoneheart is she had Brenna. She had captured Podrick and Brenna and we're about to hang them because she's not her fucking self. And then Brenna says a word, and we don't know what the word is, and that's fade to black. That's all we got with that book so far. Oh, man, such exhilarating writing. So much more different than the fucking show. You know, the credit I'll give the show is that up until season 5, they never hung anything on a cliffhanger like that. I think the worst thing they ever did, if you really want to talk about writing, there are certainly some plots and some methods they've done that were bad. But you got to point at the real shit. You got to be upset at the real shit so that people in the future don't emulate this stuff. Like cutting to black on Jon Snow dying outside when he was stabbed by the Night's Watch. And then going an entire fucking year before you pick up on that. Nobody was surprised about Jon being resurrected. Well, of course that's what the book did. But that's because George is a fucking not an amazing writer. He's a good writer, but he's not the best writer. You don't cliffhang like that. In the book it works because, you know, even though we've heard of people being resurrected, Melisandre's not there in the book. In the book, she's not there. And she's not fresh in your mind because you haven't read about Melisandre in a long time. In the show, she's only a couple episodes back. And she's nearby with Winterfell and all this shit and Stannis. You know, it's one of those situations where you can't do that on a TV show. And nobody was surprised that Jon came back. Nobody was fucking surprised. Everybody was like, he's going to be resurrected. And people talked about it for a year and people saw, and you know, they tried to do stupid bullshit like hide the fact that Kit Harington is still recording shit and still at shoots. Oh, look, everybody, Kit's not coming back. It's over. Look, he's saying that on an interview. Uh-oh, we spotted him in Belfast. Come on. You can't do that with a TV show. It's not like a book where there's not an actor roaming around that people can follow his real fucking life.
Well, you can't do that George kind Martin of shit. Could end up changing shit too. I mean,
he's not going to change shit. Now he's gone on. The reason why he's not going to change shit, he's gone on record talking about, you know, sometimes.
Well, he's a fucking liar.
He was asked a question where someone said, you know, there's a lot of fan theories about stuff. What happens when people figure stuff out? He says, well, you know, sometimes people will throw the theories together and they'll be wrong, but a lot of times people are right. There's many situations where, of course, he's talking about, and this is before we saw it in the show, he's talking about, you know, Jon Snow's parentage. There's a lot of people that got things right. And, you know, you could change that for the sake of being, you know, surprising the reader. You could change that, but then you have to change a lot of other things. And, in the long run, it's not worth it to change something like that. You just kind of got to stick to it. And people that figure it out. And people that don't, you know, are surprised by it. He's not going to change anything. He's already said it multiple times. He's not going to change anything. It's going to be the same ending. Now, he's even said, I guarantee you Arya kills the Night King. He said multiple times that Arya is important to the end of the book. She has an importance to the end of the book. He is absolutely going to have her kill the Night King. I mean, it all kind of comes together in those aspects. There's a lot of things that could be different, but it's going to be mediocre shit that's different. And I think it's going to point to what the real problem with the show was. The show was great until the final season. Why? The final season was rushed. It had nothing to do with the writing. The writing's good. The writing's good. The Night King's not some ultimate villain. He's not Sauron. He's just another fucking bump in the road. It's kind of a play on the idea of the Game of Thrones. He's a king. He's the Night King. and he's another player for.
Just another asshole.
He doesn't really want to sit on the throne, but in an idealistic way, that's kind of what he's got. That's kind of what could happen. Is he just owns everything? He kills everybody, and he's the king of everything, right? He's the king of all the undead. We've had 8,000 years in the past. We know that supposedly, and there's going to be a prequel based off it coming up, there was something known as the Long Night. The Long Night it's the only time we hear about this, okay? And this is something people need to get out of their fucking heads, because people are so fucking wrong about this over and over. They keep repeating it. The Long Night was just one episode. Okay, listen, yes, it could have been multiple episodes, but this idea that it was supposed to be this like decade-long thing or even a year or months long is fucking ridiculous. Nowhere ever has it ever said that the Night King is going to cause something like that to happen. Firstly, what do we know? We know that there was a long night 8,000 years ago, and that the Night King had, I mean, he might not have even existed for that. I don't know. We don't know till we see it. But what we do know is that all of Westeros was covered in darkness, and there were undead everywhere. Okay? It's like, it's basically a zombie apocalypse type scenario, and people were surviving, you know, in their castles with their soldiers. If undead got, you think about any fantasy game with undead. If undead got near, it was a problem. You know, it wasn't something where like the Night King was going around taking kingdoms. He may, like I said, he may not have even existed. It might have just been the undead were roaming around, and they didn't really have a leader at the time. We don't know yet. We don't know what's going on there, and we'll get more of that in the prequel. But what we do also know is that there's an Azor Ahai prophecy. Somebody named Azor Ahai from the Essos, and in Westeros he had a different name, or it could have been a different person. We don't know. Was a hero that drove the Night King, or not the Night King, but the undead forces back and the White Walkers back, and they erected a wall with the help of the Children of the Forest, using giants and magic and all this shit. Bran the Builder was a person that was there at the time. He was a Stark, blah, blah, blah. That's what we know. And then for no reason at all, the Night King comes back. Now, it's very likely that the Night King had no intention of going south of the wall until Bran got marked. The process of Bran being marked, he wanted to kill. We hear from Bran. What we also know is that the Night King's goal was to kill Bran. For all we know, the Night King would have killed Bran and fucked off. For all we know, Bran could have sacrificed himself, and the Night King would have just not fucking went south of the wall. Because remember, that's what he was after. So Bran goes south of the wall, and so the Night King wants to go south of the wall. Now, the Night King clearly has some kind of fucking green seeing powers. It's not stated specifically, but he has some kind of green seeing powers because he's in Bran's vision and can have some influence over Bran during the vision. So that means that all these people that likes bad writing, it just happens to get a dragon from Daenerys north of the wall. He knew she was coming. He's got green seeing powers. He knew she was coming.
Well, he didn't see Arya coming until the last second.
Of course he didn't see Arya coming. And that's evidence that Bran was manipulating things to some degree. What that means is, because one of the big elements that the Three-Eyed Raven kept throwing is that the ink is already dry. He kept saying that, you know, Bran, you don't have callbacks to stuff like that for no fucking reason. You have Bran calling out to Ned. You have the idea of the Mad King with burn them all. You have all these aspects. So we don't really know how much Bran controlled. But the Night King was very confident when he stood in front of Bran, almost like he saw it, like he had envisioned it already, just as Bran was envisioning things. And that look that Bran gives him, and it's been confirmed now that it was pity. I think the actor talked about it or something in a tweet, that Bran had pity for the Night King because he was kind of thrust into that position. You know, he didn't really want to, it wasn't something he wanted. He was just put in this position, and he kind of pitied him a little bit because Bran probably knows the dude's fucking history, probably knows exactly who he is and all this shit. We didn't get to see it. And that is a problem with the show, is that they rushed it and we didn't get to see things like that. They should have showed us stuff like that. The whole process of episode 3 should have been drawn out. Episode 1 through 3 should have been drawn out for 6 episodes or more, culminating in that final battle and filling in spaces where we get to learn who the fuck the Night King is, and all this shit. And they probably didn't do that because they want to save a bunch of that and get people interested in watching the prequel. That's probably what happened. Okay.
No, I told you their comment about, well, from the beginning, we thought the show was going to be about 73 hours. Like, well, fuck bullshit. That. Like, when someone asks you to do a job, right? You're a contractor. How long do you think it's going to take to make this building? Well, you know, about 62 and a half days. No one fucking says that, right? So when they ask, like, how long is the story going to take to tell? No one's going to be like, it's 73 hours.
Yeah,
they're going to say, like, I don't know, 70, 80. Listen, you know, nice round numbers, unless you're a fucking robot.
They're absolute bullshitters. I mean, you've seen them on fucking talk shows. They're a little pompous as well. You know, they're writers in fucking Hollywood. Of course they are. They're probably anti-Trump retards. But the problem is that it's not the writing. The writing's good. Who Kills the Night King is good. If it was John, he'd be a fucking Mary Sue. He's fucking done so much shit. He's got away with so much shit. It's such a cliche that John kills him. Okay, and I've talked about this before. The whole fucking show is John's story. A Song of Ice and Fire is John's story. That's who he's the main character from the beginning to the end. The fact that the book and the show start with John going north of the wall and end with John going north of the wall, and that's how the books are going to probably end too, is evidence to that. The fact that, you know, he is a Targaryen and a Stark. That's ice and fire. The fact that his father, when he's born, says that his is a song of ice and fire. Yeah, that's the only time we hear that fucking line used, by the way. So one of the big key things that people say is bad writing is, what about the Azor Ahai shit? What about it? George Martin has gone on record many times saying that prophecies aren't these things where they just come to fruition. You know, Jesus rode in to Jerusalem on a what was it? It was on a donkey. This was not something that just happened. Jesus was a Jewish man. He rode into Jerusalem on a donkey because that's what the fucking Hebrew Bible said would happen when the next prophet, the final prophet, returned. I mean, Jews to this day don't believe that Jesus was that prophet. They believed he was just some guy that read that prophecy and tried to make that prophecy a thing for himself. You know, the people that believe in Jesus from around him at that time claimed that he did miracles and shit. I don't fucking know. I mean, there's a lot of people that are alive today that lie for their friends to try to make them look good. I'm just saying, saying it's true or false, whatever. We don't fucking know. But that's what prophecies are like. And George Martin has said many times that he writes his books the way he does because he wants them to be realistic. You know, he makes the comment about, you know, people that go off to war in Vietnam and stuff. Everybody probably thought they were the hero up until the moment the bullet went through their brain. You know, that's what he talks about. People die, and there's no reason to it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Death doesn't have a purpose. There's no purpose or big meaning to somebody's death. So when he writes his fantasy books as well, he tries to make it similar like that. You know, it's not, people don't die because they're supposed to die. People die for this and that. And Bran because of how George writes, we could look at Bran's character and say that it's very likely that Bran was using his powers to influence things. Does that mean that Bran's some evil douchebag that wanted the throne? I don't know. Maybe, I wouldn't say he's evil, but maybe he wanted the throne because he believed he could rule better. And people are like, well, that's a bad writing, because when they ask him, he's the last living male Stark. So when they ask him to be the king in the north or whatever the fuck they ask him, just to be the guy of the king of Winterfell or the ruler, he says, I don't want that because I don't have those desires anymore. Yeah, for that. He wasn't talking about that. Nobody was asking him if he wants to sit on the Iron fucking Throne. Like, just because he fucking turned down being the Lord of Winterfell, he can see everything. If he starts being the Lord of Winterfell, people are going to be suspicious of him taking a power grab at the fucking throne, right? So we don't know. Maybe he is like that. And that's something that the show should have explained. Not because the writing's bad, but because they rushed the final fucking season. It should have been two more seasons or something. And we should have gotten clear evidence whether or not Bran was manipulating things. Listen, I'm all for like a thing where something ends, like Inception, and you have that moment where everybody's like, is he in the fucking dream world or is he not? And the fucking director has to come out and tell people, listen, you fucking idiots. The point is that it doesn't matter. Okay? He doesn't care anymore. He's just going to enjoy his life with his children, whether he's in a dream or not. But some people are like, it wobbled. It wobbled at the end. Well, it's a top. That's what they do.
Yeah, well, it doesn't in the dream world. That's the point. But actually, with Inception, they came out and said that
the movie is that the whole point of that movie is his character. He's obsessed with that the whole fucking movie, to the point where he's ignoring his children and shit like that. But at the end, he doesn't care, because he's reclaimed that value of just not caring about that and wanting to just live out his days with his children. So he comes to an area where he's like, you know what? It doesn't matter if this is real or fake. This is real for me because my children are here and this is beautiful and it's great. And who cares if it's not real? And that the point of that, from the viewer's perspective, is just stop trying to make the world what you want it to be. Just kind of accept something. When you have something good in front of you, accept it for what it is. Stop trying to make it perfect or worrying about, where it's going and shit like that. That's the purpose of it. They actually
came out and said that, it is the real world, because the top wasn't his totem. The top was his wife's totem. His totem.
I don't know. I'm just going off what the director said.
No, they said every time he's in the dream, he's not wearing a wedding ring. I don't know. I don't know how that goes, but one or the other. Either he's wearing it or he's not wearing it every time he's in a dream.
But yeah, but that's not the point of the whole movie. The whole movie, its meaning is all this bullshit. You have to remember that all these artists and writers and shit, they always try to put moral conundrums or meanings to their fucking shit. You look at a game like World of Warcraft, there's no real meaning to the story. It's just cool shit. And that's fine. I think Tolkien did stuff that was just cool shit. Some of these writers, they're really pompous, and George Martin's one of them. His shit's always got fucking meaning to it and shit, and he's one of those kind of fucking people. So you have to consider that. Now, the book will probably give us the information that we need in terms of whether or not Bran's doing it, because the book's going to be able to draw out a lot of things that the show wasn't. That's why the book will be better, because it's going to be the same endings, but it's going to draw out this shit a lot. Daenerys' turn is going to happen much slower in the book, because there's just more to deal with, more to work with. I think that's important, and that's why I agree with people that it was rushed. But we got to stop saying that it's the writing, because the writing is fine. Jon Snow gets what he wants. He never wanted to be king. Everybody's like, he should sit on the Iron Throne. Why? He doesn't want that. That's the ending you want, is miserable Jon? You want him to fucking hate his life just because he's supposed to sit on? What do you mean he's supposed to sit on it? Based on what? His bloodline? That's what we as fucking viewers we of a Western democratic society suddenly are like cheering for the concept of bloodline? It's so fucking dumb. That's the failure of Daenerys. Now, Daenerys is another big aspect. Everybody's like, Dany doesn't make any sense. She was like this, and she was like this. Daenerys is the tragic hero. It's a classic Shakespearean thing. She's the classic idealistic hero. Her whole fucking life is based on idealism. And it's actually funny, because a lot of Daenerys, a lot of her character is very communistic. There's traits of like the concept of what types of, the end of the show, and I think the end of the book's going to hit on this, kind of brings around the idea of what kind of rulers exist in our current modern world, and is reflected on that. Cersei was definitely a dictator, but she was a dictator that didn't care about her people. She didn't really do anything to help the people. She didn't do anything to make the people's lives worse. She just wanted to sit in the throne room and have her children and do whatever she wanted and live a lavish life. Someone like Daenerys comes along, and she's driven by idealism. She's a dictator as well, but her idealism is more of like a communistic, socialistic idealism, where she has all these moral ideas that in her head, she's a good person and she's trying to help the world be moral, but she takes these fascistic approaches of, some people are going to have to die in order for me to be in charge, because I know I'm a good person. And once I am in charge of everything, everybody will have a better life because there won't be any more of these dictators and despots, and I'll be in charge, and everybody will get to eat, and everybody will be happy, and I'll just, give everybody everything. It's a very naive, childlike viewpoint of the world that you can take care of everyone and give everyone what they need in order to survive. And in order to do that, you have to do it through force. So Daenerys is kind of an idealistic version of socialism and fascism in her approach of things. Jon is a very libertarian kind of move away kind of person. Like, I just want to do me and everybody else can kind of do them. And that's the way it should. I don't think that I shouldn't have power because I'm not the right person to make decisions for other people. Other people's lives are their own, blah, blah, blah. And these are the two conflicting kind of approaches. And I know that's looking into it a lot, but I think if fucking George Martin is a Shakespearean guy. He's fucking loves Shakespeare. He talks about it all the time in his fucking blog. There's no doubt that Daenerys is the tragic hero, the hero that believes themselves to be a hero. And the tragedy is that they allow idealism to get in the way of their heroism. Whereas Jon is the opposite. He doesn't allow that idealism to get in his way. To the point where, up until the end, and God, it would have been better if it was an entire fucking season, but up until the end, he's sitting there with Tyrion in the fucking cell, and he's justifying Daenerys' action because he loves her. He desperately doesn't want to have to kill her, even though he knows it's the right thing to do. It's kind of fucked up from people that live in a Western society that believe in things like imprisonment and that kind of justice, but for him, there's no option because what is he going to do? Nobody's going to go with him to imprison her, right? He can't just be like, we got to put her in prison. Yeah, well, she can just hop on the back of her dragon. And now what are you going to do?
Okay, but here's actually my big problem with the last episode. Why didn't the dragon fucking kill Jon?
Well, I agree with that to some degree. I think this is another situation of it being rushed. I believe that in the book, you're probably not going to have Jon and Drogon in the throne room at the same time or something like that. Because it does feel awkward. It feels like he should have been roasted by the dragon. Now,
you're telling me that the dragon is more emotionally evolved than Daenerys was, right? Like, first thought is, my queen died for this fucking throne, right? And not like, you killed my mother.
So here's an interesting concept. So with the book, I think they'll be able to hit on this a lot more. And again, the show should have had way more episodes so that they could have hit on this. But dragons have mental connections with their riders. They have a type of psychic ability. They hit on this in the show a little bit when Jon talks to Dany after the first time he rides Rhaegal. He says that it felt like he knew what I wanted to do. That's part of that, and it's explained much more heavily in the books. I mean, we already knew that they had these psychic connections from the books, and they'll probably even talk about it more in the final couple books, especially as Jon first starts to fly the dragon or ride the dragon. So there's definitely some kind of psychic connection. We know, again, we do see this in the show a couple times, I guess, where like she's in the arena and they're surrounded by the guys with the masks and she closes her eyes. She's connecting with Drogon and calling to him. She may not realize that's what she's doing, but she's probably in her mind kind of praying or something, almost like a prayer, not really praying, but almost like a prayer. She's begging for him to be there, and he shows up. I mean, how he got there that quickly is crazy. He might have just psychically knew that was happening. She was in danger from the beginning of that shit happening, and her closing her eyes may not have even been the moment where it was happening. It's very likely that Drogon is connected to her at all times mentally, and it's kind of a passive thing where they don't really know. And this doesn't get explained a whole lot, and we need more material from the books to explain this to us. But it is known that there is a type of psychic connection. Same thing goes for the direwolves. There's a bit of a psychic connection there with the Starks. And so, when she dies, it's down there just below them. It immediately knows she's dead. comes up there, and I don't know, the dragon, the idea that the dragon just knew that the throne was the problem. Dragons are supposed to be highly intelligent in George Martin's world. They usually
in most
are.
worlds they are.
In most fantasies, they're quite intelligent, and it's not. This isn't just a beast in George Martin's world. They are intelligent creatures. They're ruthless and they don't really care. I agree that either John shouldn't have been in the room, or he should have took cover, or Drogon should have came in a little bit later. I like better the idea, and I think what they're trying to do here is that they don't have material to go off of to a heavy degree with something like this. I think they sat down at a table and George said, and Drogon comes into the throne room and thrashes around and destroys the Iron Throne with his breath, because that's how the throne was created, was with dragon breath, and it's poetic that that's how the throne is destroyed. He does that shit a lot. So, when you think about a dragon coming in and thrashing around, that's like, in our minds, he's just going ape shit and fucking breathing fire everywhere. And somebody like John would have to get the fuck out of there. But
see that meme in memes? It's a video.
Yeah. But, in the show, I think this is another problem where, they hear thrashing around, and he just comes in and screams a bit and throws some fire around and then burns the throne. I don't know. It's another thing that they could have, if they would have done this, if they would have done episode 4, 5, and 6 episodes 1 through 3 should have been season 8. Episode 4 through 6 should have been season 9. And then we could have like multiple episodes where they could actually explain that kind of shit. They could have Bran talk about it, like we could have Bran. One of the worst things about the final episode is we hear Bran talk about going to find Drogon, but they don't show him doing it.
He walks in, they talk about like one thing, and like, hey, what about the dragon? And he's like, let me go find him, and walks out. Are you serious? Like, you need to do that right now?
Well, he rolls out, but
yeah.
Fucking
rolls up out of there.
Absolutely. And it would have been great to see him doing that. And if we could have got those 3 episodes as an entire 6-season episode, or even 10, I would have been just fine with 10, even if the episodes aren't as long, whatever. It would have been nice to be able to like have him confirm some things. Sometimes it's nice to have people confirm things. It would have been nice to have him confirm like how he felt about the whole thing or something, or something like that. That could have been an easy way to explain why he didn't kill John. Now, obviously, the obvious thing that you're probably supposed to take away, I don't know if this is true. This is a little conjecture on my part. I'm assuming that you're supposed to take away that John's a Targaryen and he's got a psychic connection with Drogon as well to some degree. And so Drogon doesn't kill him because Drogon feels like John's one of the only family he has still, just along with Daenerys. He kind of sees John as a father if Daenerys is the mother, because he's watched them kind of be affectionate together, and the dragon's supposed to be intelligent. So it's kind of a play on like, why did you do this to her? And it's all this fucking throne's fault. If she would have never went after this thing, this would have never happened, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there could even possibly be, and it would have been great to have Bran explain some of this. They wouldn't have had to go into a fucking super detail, but it'd be nice to have like, maybe Drogon didn't enjoy being on the back, flying around roasting citizens. Maybe he didn't fucking enjoy that. Maybe he didn't care. I don't fucking know. There's so much shit that we don't get answered, and that's the real problem. It's not because the writing's bad. It's because it's too goddamn fast. There's too much shit that just went unexplained in the final season. This is what we talked about. We talked about the worst thing that can happen to this show is they leave a bunch of shit unexplained. Like,
that's what happened.
And that's what happened. There was just a bunch of unexplained shit. Why? Probably because they have 5 fucking spinoffs prepared, and they're not all going to be prequels. I fucking promise you that.
Well, they've already denied that we're going to get an Arya Goes to the West spinoff.
Well, I wouldn't want to see that anyways. That'd be boring as fuck. I want to see more fucking, I want to see what happens after. You could show me what happens after. Where the fuck does Drogon go? Where the fuck does he go? They could have just at least told me where he goes. I want to know.
I know, it was just kind of,
where does the dragon
whole
go?
Sequence was kind of fucking dumb. Like, he shows up, he gets pissed off, melts the Iron Throne, doesn't kill Jon, picks up Dany and just goes away? Why? To bury her? Why does he take the body?
Yeah, there's even theories that like he takes her to a red priestess to be revived. There's theories on that. Because she had the red priests back in Essos. Back in Essos, the red priests were allies of hers. And she got them under her. Like, that was one of the big story elements of Meereen. Like, the people will follow you because the red god is their god. So if you bring in the fucking priests and get them on your side, then the people will get on your side. So, I mean, an intelligent dragon knowing that kind of shit could have fucking, I don't know. Like, fucking tell us. God damn it. It's fucking crazy, man. Well, what else do we know in terms of, I want to put this out here. People need to stop with the Azor Ahai thing, because what we know, because of the ending of the show
barely mentioned it at all. So
the show barely mentioned it. Okay. And you can't say that Melisandre talked about it all the time. Yeah. She's driven by the prophecy. That doesn't mean that this fucking show is the prophecy. It doesn't mean that any character in the show is the prophetic person. It just means that there's a red priest who fucking, I mean, come on, she's a red priest. Of course she's fucking walking around believing in the prophecy. It's no different than fucking Christians and Muslims today walking around believing in their prophecy going to happen during their fucking lifetime. That's how it works. A lot of her character is driven off of the idea of this prophecy, and she dies thinking she has fulfilled a step towards that. And that's the tragedy to Melisandre's character. She comes back and does all this shit and helps the living, but she then ends her life thinking that she's done it and that, Arya is going to become the, whatever the fuck. And then it doesn't actually happen because this isn't the one. Surprise, surprise. This is not the one. Jon wasn't Azor Ahai. Daenerys wasn't Azor Ahai. Arya wasn't Azor Ahai. This is not the one. This is not the end game. And what I mean by that is the whole story of R'hllor, the Red God, and all that talks about how there's the Red God R'hllor, and then there's the Great Other, and they're constantly warring against each other. And it's probably metaphoric. Probably the day versus the night, like most fucking religions are. It's probably metaphoric manifestations of day versus night. You look at all the fucking zodiacs, and they're just fucking star constellations, and they have personalities and stories attached to them because it's easier for people to remember constellations and shit if there's a story attached to it. Okay, I mean, if you look at Jesus, and I'm not trying to bust people's balls that are religious, if you look at Jesus, it's the same story is told over and over again through countless civilizations throughout time about the Son of God and being, of a virgin birth and all this shit. Stories are easier to remember than just saying things. Like, people remember stories way easier than they remember just the fact about it. It's kind of like selling a jingle instead of a product. And that's kind of the same here. Like, R'hllor and the Great Other may not even fucking exist. It might just be night versus dark, and all these people believe in this shit, and this magic already exists in this world because it's a magical fantasy world. But it could be that the god and the counter to that god exists, the Great Other and R'hllor, and it talks about, if you believe that that's a thing, which is ironic that you have to have faith that it's a fucking thing because it's not fucking shown or told to you directly. They talk about how these two beings select champions to battle each other for the end goal. And the prophecy is that one day a champion will arise, Azor Ahai reborn, and he will wield a flaming sword known as Lightbringer, and he will bring about the end of the Great Other permanently. Like, it will be the final time that conflict happens between champions. Well, clearly A Song of Ice and Fire is not about Azor Ahai and the return of it. It's about, and that's again why I believe the show is about, and the books is about Jon Snow. Because if we would have had the Azor Ahai thing, then I'd be sitting here thinking, okay, it's, that's what this is about. But it's not. It's a story of just fucking, it's fucking George Martin trying to be deep and making a story about a bastard who's not actually a fucking bastard, and becomes a good man. It's a story of nurture versus nature and all this shit, political shit. Like, he's got political tones in it, you know, and they tried to adapt it to a TV show, and the writers of the show did a great job writing it, but the pieces of shit wanted to go do Star Wars because they probably like Star Wars more than they like A Song of Ice and Fire. Who can blame them? There's still 2 books that haven't been written. By the way, the first book was written in 1991. And then he wrote the second book in 1993. What the fuck is going on? You know when the last time we got a book was? 9 fucking years ago. Okay, so you tell me what George Martin's doing. I mean, he's got a lot of fame now. He's doing a lot of
there's like little short videos of him out in his backyard, like with a little bubble thing, like spinning in circles, making bubbles.
Those are jokes, I think. I think that's from like that was a skit or something done on a talk show or something. But I'm pretty sure he's wasting time. He's not sitting down writing the book as passionately as he did the first 2 books. He's doing press tours. He's going I mean, just recently he was like, he did a blog post where he went and fucking visited. He like saw some celebrities or something that would have never gave a fuck who he was if it wasn't for Game of Thrones as a TV show, by the way. Like, his popularity stems 100% from the show, because he was pretty much a nobody before the show. I mean, he had a fan base, but the popularity he's received now is Tolkien levels of popularity. It's interesting because we have a living Tolkien right now, and he's old and very obese, so it's not looking good. We may never even fucking get the ending of the books, and people have to accept that. We may never get the ending to the books, and people are like, "Oh, this guy will take over." That, you know, is friends with him. Or I don't like that. Like, everybody's like, "Look, Tolkien's son took over the writing." What the fuck are you talking about? Why would I give a shit about Tolkien's son? What is this shit? Are we fucking serious right now? You know, my ancestors fought in the woods with muskets against these pieces of shit British and their fucking bloodline nonsense. And you're over here talking about like a blood connection to somebody somehow makes you know where the book was going. Shut the fuck up. After fucking Tolkien dies, everything's in anybody can write anything about Lord of the Rings. It doesn't matter. It's never going to be the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings level, because it's not going to be the guy who fucking envisioned it in the first place. It might be good. Look at Star Wars. There's some pretty decent Star Wars shit. Rogue One, I thought, was pretty fucking good. It's not fucking George Lucas doing it. You can definitely make some shit on the side that's good, but stop talking to me like it's because he's got the same blood in his fucking veins that it's somehow legitimate. The fuck do you mean? I'll give you an idea real quick about George Martin in case you're discounting what I'm saying about George and his personality. First of all, his blog is called Not a Blog. It's grrm.livejournal.com. The title is Not a Blog. Okay. He puts his mood at the end of every fucking blog post. Okay. So here's a one called Cover Boy. Hot damn, I'm a cover boy, an Esquire cover boy on the Chinese edition of Esquire. Picture of the magazine front with him on it, looking like he just ate a cheeseburger. And then current location, Santa Fe, because that's where he lives. Current mood, amused. So he went to China and did an interview, I guess. I don't know. That's not writing a book, whatever. Next one, from Terra to Teos. Listen, look at these fucking dates. April 6th, April 13th, April 3rd. Like, the guy's writing more blog. Like, holy shit. If you took his whole fucking blog and put it together, you'd have goddamn one of the books. Like, just fucking. God damn it.
Right,
George.
the goddamn books already.
Write the books. He puts his fucking link in there, but pleased, contemplative, amused. You know what? By the way, let's just talk about this. Fire and Blood. So let's talk about this. Fire and Blood is a George R. R. Martin book. Here's the fun part about it. Okay? It's new.
What?
Fire and Blood is a fantasy book by American writer George R. R. Martin. It tells the history of House Targaryen. That's what it is. It's not a part of the A Song of Ice and Fire series. It tells the history of House Targaryen, a family from his series A Song of Ice and Fire. Although originally in 2013 planned for publication after the completion of the series, Martin has revealed his intent to publish the history in 2 volumes as the material had grown too large. The first volume was released on November 20th, 2018. This fucking guy stopped writing A Song of Ice and Fire to do the history of House Targaryen.
Who gives a shit?
So in 2014, more than 200,000 words were removed from the manuscript of Martin's companion book, The World of Ice and Fire, and were incorporated into Fire and Blood. In February 2017, Martin's co-author reported that he had spoken with Martin in 2017 in Helsinki about the first volume of Fire and Blood. According to Garcia, in addition to the never-published material developed for The World of Ice and Fire, Martin also created entirely new material for the book, having worked some on just fleshing out a bit. Yeah, bullshit. 9 fucking years we've been waiting on this fucking Winds of Winter book. And he's over here doing fucking history of House Targaryen like anybody gives a goddamn about their fucking history. This is the kind of shit you do after you finish the series, man. And listen, the reason why people like me and fans of the series are upset is because you are potentially leading us to a situation where it's unfinished and you die. And we never get the ending of this. And yes, I get it. He's not obligated to do it, but we're allowed to be upset about it. Like, who gives a fuck about the history of the Targaryen family? We already know what we need to know. They fuck their brothers and sisters and they come from fucking, Storm's End. And a thousand or so years ago, they fucking conquered all of Westeros and made a bend the knee. What else do you need to fucking know? Seriously. Who gives a shit? Is it going to lead to any kind of information with A Song of Ice and Fire? No, of course not. And the worst part is he writes it off as, it's just some fleshing out a bit. What do you fucking mean fleshing out? How much time did you spend on this shit? There's also a World of Ice and Fire. So World of Ice and Fire is like his book that kind of details information. It's another companion book. It's not a part of A Song of Ice and Fire. It's written by Martin Elio M. Garcia Jr., his co-writer, and Linda Antonson. It was published in 2014. It's a 326-page volume, fully illustrated history compendium. The Fiction of Westeros. It's similar to like a Maester's book. That's cool stuff. After you finish the story. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we lived in a world where we had The Hobbit, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and that was it. And then we had like the Silmarillion, but Tolkien's dead.
Yeah, he dies right after the Silmarillion.
We never had Return of the King. So we're just sitting here like, what fucking happens? What happens? I mean, we know the history and richness of this fucking world, but we don't know what happened. You haven't even finished the main story that got people interested in the first fucking place. You don't get to go and start writing compendiums. What are you fucking talking about? Get the fuck out of here. Oh my God. So, by the way, that's what this is. The World of Ice and Fire is similar to the Silmarillion. It's just, God damn it, man. Make notes or something. When you die, people will put it together in a book. I promise you. Just fucking stop already. Getting out of fucking control. Anyways, that's Game of Thrones.
I mean, what else is there to say? It's over.
Well, to close, I need to reiterate that I think Daenerys is a support character for Jon. She's not a main character. She never was. Most support characters, you play a game like Final Fantasy, and your Cloud Strife and Final Fantasy VII, that's the main character. You follow his story, and there's an overall story for the whole world, but you get some background information for him. But it's really about Cloud and the world specifically. And you have these support characters like Barrett. And you find out over time who Barrett is and where he comes from. But you find that out through Cloud and his perspective. Sometimes you get flashbacks in the form of him telling him a story or something like that, and you see some shit that happened in the past, but that's it. A Game of Thrones is similar, and A Song of Ice and Fire is similar to if Final Fantasy you played Cloud, but you didn't know he was the main character. You just got introduced to all these characters, and then you started following Barrett around for quite a long time and seeing through his perspective and his POV. And they do this on purpose in the show, by the way, because the way George Martin writes the Song of Fire, if you've never read A Song of Ice and Fire, it's separated based off POV. Everything is a POV chapter. So most books are written from a narrational perspective, narrating what characters say and do and all this. And sometimes they'll follow a character. But A Song of Ice and Fire is written from perspective, from POV, and they're called POV chapters. Like you have a chapter, they're named as such. So you'll have a chapter, and you'll read through a chapter that's titled Catelyn, and you'll read through her perspective of all these events happening from her point of view. Like you don't hear or see anything that she doesn't. And then the next chapter is just titled Jon. And then the next chapter is Arya, and then back to Catelyn. Like that's how it unfolds. Like when you read The Red Wedding from her perspective, and let me bring it up real quick. You're not it's not like in the show where you're seeing all these different things happen. You're reading it in the form of her, like how she sees it, like from her perspective. By the way, in the books, Catelyn's supposed to be hot. Just throwing that out there. Not like this old woman that they had play as her and shit. Because in the book, everybody's much younger than they actually are in the show. And I guess they had to make it more like Americanized and Westernized or whatever. I don't fucking know. I'm going to try to find the line for that because I think it's really important that people understand that the show was intending to kind of make the show similar to the books in that you see things through characters' perspectives. But I believe the book is absolutely about Jon Snow. I think it's his story. I mean, you get it left and right with A Song of Ice and Fire, but it's all different. There's POV characters is what they're called. So like the Hound is not a POV character. I mean, he might be once he gets resurrected. Again, in the books, the Hound is presumably dead. He's presumed dead. The only thing we have is Brenna before she doesn't fight him. The Hound dies in a different way in the book, supposedly. Brenna comes across, she's looking for Arya, and she comes across a guy that's like running a town, like a little town. And the only thing we get is he talks about the Gravekeeper being, and they see the Gravekeeper and he's this hooded guy and he's abnormally tall. That's all we hear about it. And a lot of people speculated for the longest time that the Gravekeeper is a nursed back to health Sandor Clegane. And by the way Clegane goes out in the books is an infected wound, supposedly. He gets wounded and he won't cauterize it because of fire. He's afraid of fire. So he won't cauterize it. I believe that's what
he's
happens.
dead in the books?
He's supposedly dead. But people assume that he's the Gravekeeper. It's very similar to It's very similar to the show in some way, where you're not sure if he's alive, and then he kind of gets nursed back to health by these townspeople that are kind of religious. You know, that's kind of how it goes. You can go ahead and talk about. I know you have some things to say. I'm going to try to find this quote to finish off. Just kind of.
I mean, I said it before. I don't really have a problem with anything that happened. I just think it happened way too quickly, and they didn't explain enough. It's kind of what I was afraid of. I mean, they didn't end on a cliffhanger, really. So I mean, that's something. But they really needed to. I don't know, especially with Bran. I mean, Bran apparently knows everything, or has the potential to know everything, and like you don't know. You don't know what he fucking wargs into when he's waiting for the Night King. Like, right. There's just all this shit he does, and you're like, what the fuck is he doing? And it just seems really rushed for no reason. I just think that instead of being like, oh shit, we got to go make Star Wars, let's fucking wrap up the show. Just fucking quit while you're ahead and pass the show off to somebody else. Like, they're not. I don't think Dan and Dave are the only writers in the world that could have written this fucking show. You know?
I agree.
I mean, and again, I don't need this show to go on forever. I didn't need 12 seasons. But you're right. The first 3 episodes should have been 10 episodes. Season 1 or season 8, and then episodes 4 through 6 should have been 10 episodes in season 9. And really, dig deep, because you built up all these characters. That's the kind of send off they should have had, like lay all the fucking doubt to rest. Like, actually build up some motivation for these people. And I'm not talking about like 4 episodes of them fucking traveling to Dragonstone. Like, I'm okay with the fast travel they got going on. I just mean, like, stop with all the fucking cut to black. Like, Bran, tell them, cut to black. Like, well, what the fuck? What did he say? How did they react to that? Like, what?
Yeah, come on. Cut to black. Yeah. We want to see the reaction.
It went from a lot of showing and no telling to a lot of telling and no showing in the last season here. It's got the what's his face, George Lucas problem, right?
Yeah,
they just tell you shit and you're just supposed to take it. Yeah. A very bad decision, and I mean, I get why everyone hates D&D. I don't hate them because of the writing. I hate them because they gave up on the show to go do something else, which I don't blame them for wanting to go do something else, but you don't have to be like, no, the show is ours. Like, just fucking give it to someone who gives a shit, Fuck. And there's a lot of good memes. I haven't checked Free Folk in a long time, but there's some good ones you should go check out.
Some memes.
This is all we have to look forward to forever and ever now.
All right, give me a second. 1 second. I'm going to grab the book. I know the page it's on.
Really? We got it earmarked? This motherfucker. That's pretty much all I got to say about Game of Thrones. I mean, everyone's storyline pretty much wrapped up in a satisfying way. It just felt like it ended too quickly. And sure, nobody wants endings. But I just think they needed to drag it out a little bit more and give more detail to everybody. I don't know what else to say, really. Like I said, they already confirmed that the Arya going west thing is not going to happen. Which is alright. But I hope that they actually decide to go back and dig into the lore. I hope they don't go really heavy character base. I think you already had your political, love triangle. It's all about all these characters type of show. Now you need to dig into the lore of it. And yeah, you need the characters obviously to follow and stuff like that. But I really think that they should at least use this opportunity of a prequel to explain. Oh, sorry, I'm clicking on memes. They should use this opportunity with the prequel to kind of expound on all the complaints people have with the the ending in Game of Thrones. And it'll be different writers, and hopefully those writers will give a shit about the story. But who knows? It could be 5 years from now before we see that. We don't know if it's even in pre-production or anything. We just know that it's happening. And another thing I'd also like to know is, they said that there's going to be multiple spin-offs. Are all these spin-offs going to happen at the same time, or are they going to run one and then run another and then another? So sequential or simultaneously? Simultaneously, who knows? I'm actually really surprised that someone hasn't come out and said something about the spin-offs. Something new, anyway, with all the backlash. Like, you would think, like, if the show ended really well and everyone was talking about how good it is, they'd kind of ride it out. But it seems like if they don't announce something quick and give these people something to latch onto, they're going to lose a lot of their fan base because they're just going to lose interest. You got to strike while the iron's hot. You know, there's a lot of people talking about Game of Thrones right now. Give some positive news and take the focus off of all these terrible fucking memes and shit about how bad the final episode was. Bran on the throne. I mean, to me, it makes sense. It just feels weird, you know? Just feels weird. But honestly, I don't know who else could have done it. John didn't want it. So what else? You can check out the Daily Free Folk Talk thread.
I'm telling you, like, if you're going to make a box set, you got to have fucking thumb holes or something to pull a fucking book out. Jesus Christ.
Oh, the suction keeps it in there.
So it's very jarring in the book. Actually, I think the on-screen portrayal of the Red Wedding is much more traumatic because of how it just takes off and all the bloodshed you see. Because from what you get in the book is, like I said, it's Catelyn's perspective. And it's really crazy because, you know, she's sitting there and you're reading it and it seems like a normal wedding. It's actually pretty boring. You're like, this is just a wedding scene. It's kind of boring. You know, she's talking about, like, Roose Bolton murmured some words too soft to hear and went off in search of a privy. Like, it's like you don't understand what's going on, but it starts to all kind of slowly start to come together. But it does happen abruptly. You know, you get the Lord, Your Grace, Lord Walter called out to Rob. The Septon has prayed his prayers. Some words have been said, and Lord Edimer's wrapped my sweetling in a fish cloak. But they're not yet man and wife. You know, they do that classic thing where they run off and all that shit because, you know, the bedding ceremony or whatever.
We just got married. Gotta go fuck now.
Gotta go. That's how it works.
Gotta go fuck my wife. Gotta go have a kid immediately before we both die of some terrible disease and we don't have antibiotics yet.
So this is how it goes in the book. I'm just going to read a short bit here just to give you a perspective of how the book is done in a POV fashion.
Story time with the Gabbler. While you do that, I'm going to grab another drink.
Let me find the very moment it happened. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. She did not answer him. Edwin Frey shoved her aside. The music drowned all other sound, echoing off the walls as if the stones themselves were playing. Rob gave Edwin an angry look and moved to block his way, and staggered suddenly as a quarrel spouted from his side, just beneath the shoulder. So it happens so suddenly because you go from Daisy. So I'm just to kind of get a feel here. I'll back up a little. It is nothing. She tried to tell herself. You are seeing grumpkins in the woodpile. You are becoming an old, silly woman, sick with grief and fear. But something must have shown on her face. Even Sir Wendell Manderley took note. Is something amiss? He asked, the leg of lamb in his hands. She did not answer him. Instead, she went after Edwin Frey. So at this point, as you're reading, you're like, what is happening here? Like, it was boring, but Catelyn's being really, like, paranoid, but then also Catelyn's writing it off. Like, you're in her head. It says the players in the gallery had finally gotten both king and queen down to their name day suits. With scarcely a moment's respite, they began to play a very different sort of song. No one sang the words, but Catelyn knew the song, the Rains of Castamere, when she heard it. Edwin was hurrying toward a door. She hurried faster, driven by the music. 6 quick strides, and she caught him. And who are you, the proud lord said, that I must bow so low? She grabbed Edwin by the arm and turned him and went cold all over when she felt the iron rings beneath his silken sleeve. So that's the moment you realize something's gone wrong, and you're only seeing it from her perspective. Catelyn slapped him so hard she broke his lip. Now here's a small change that we're talking about. In the show, that's Roose Bolton. She does that too. In the book, it's just one of the fucking guys, right? Olivar, she thought, and Perwyn, Alisander, all absent, and Rosalind wept. Edwin Frey shoved her aside. The music drowned all other sound, echoing off the walls as if the stones themselves were playing. Robb gave Edwin an angry look and moved to block his way, and staggered suddenly as a quarrel sprouted from his side, just
Brought
beneath
to you
the
by
shoulder.
Audible.
If he screamed then, the sound was swallowed by the pipes and horns and fiddles. Catelyn saw a second bolt pierce his leg, saw him fall. Up in the gallery, half the musicians had crossbows in their hands instead of drums or lutes. She ran toward her son until something punched in the small of the back, and the hard stone floor came up to slap her. Robb, she screamed. She saw Small John Umber wrestle a table off its trestles. Crossbow bolts thudded into the wood. So it just suddenly happens, right? They're literally just rushing the people out for the bed. There's no thing where Walder Frey's like, I'm afraid I've been remiss. They don't have that monologue moment like they do in the show, which I think is pretty good. But you get it all from Catelyn's perspective. You're literally seeing everything through her eyes. Even Robb being shot, like she sees him being shot, and then she feels things. She looks over and sees John Umber flip the table, or not John, but whatever his name is. She approaches the thing, and again, that's the things George talks about. She slaps one of the Freys that's got chainmail under his thing when she grabs his collar and feels it. It's not Roose Bolton. Roose Bolton's not even in the room. Roose Bolton left. He went to go take a piss.
Convenient.
A lot of things are similar. Catelyn grabbed a handful of Jingle Bell Frey's long gray hair and dragged him out of his hiding place. This is one of Frey's children, by the way. Lord Walder, she shouted. Lord Walder, the drum beat slow and sonorous. Doom, boom, doom. Enough, said Catelyn. Enough, I say. You have repaid betrayal with betrayal. Let it end. A lot of this things from the book. She says a lot of the stuff from the Robb, get up and walk out, please. And he's like, why would I let him do that? She pressed the blade deeper.
I got more kids than you.
A man in dark armor and pale pink cloak, spotted with blood, stepped up to Robb. Jaime Lannister sends his regards, then thrust the long sword through her son's heart and twisted. Robb had broken his word, but Catelyn kept hers. She tugged hard on Aegon's hair and sawed at his neck until the blade grated on bone. Blood ran hot over her fingers. His little bells were ringing. Finally, someone took the knife away from her. The tears burned like vinegar as they ran down her cheeks. 10 fierce ravens were raking her face with sharp talons and tearing off strips of flesh, leaving deep furrows that ran red with blood. She could taste it on her lip. It hurts so much, she thought. Our children, Ned, all our... You don't even see her getting her slit neck throat, because from her perspective, she's not seeing that. It's just what she feels. It hurts so much, she thought. Our children, Ned, all our sweet babes, Rykon, Bran, Arya, Sansa, Robb. Please, Ned, please make it stop hurting. The white tears and the red ones ran together until her face was torn and tattered, the face that Ned had loved. Catelyn Stark raised her hands and watched the blood run down her long fingers over her wrists, beneath the sleeves of her gown. Slow red worms crawled along her arms and under her clothes. It tickles. That made her laugh until she screamed. Mad, someone said. She lost her wits, and someone else said, make an end. And a hand grabbed her scalp, just as she had done. Man. And its bite was red and cold. And that's the end of her chapter. You don't get chapters of her all the way to the end of the book, where somebody stumbles upon her body, and it's a Jaime chapter, I think. A Jaime chapter. Like this book is a storm of swords, and ends with an epilogue of Jaime, I think, meeting with them, and they find her body, and she's resurrected into Lady Stoneheart in the other book. I think maybe it's this book, it might be the other one. I don't remember exactly, but I think the show is trying to capture that, and that's why you follow Daenerys around everywhere, even though she's not a main character. That's why you follow Cersei and Jaime and Brenna. All these characters that are in the books are POV characters. Characters you don't follow around are like Peter Baelish. He's not a POV character. I don't believe. He might be. I don't believe he is. Ned is a POV character. Arya, Sansa, Catelyn, Jon, Robb. These are POV characters. Daenerys, Jaime, Brenna, Tyrion. These are POV characters. And just like in the book, the show follows those characters no matter what they do. It follows those characters and tells the story through their eyes. And that's what's interesting about the books, I think. That's why people like it so much, I believe, is because it's written in a POV fashion. It puts you in the seat, in the character's eyes. Instead of just telling you about the character, you see everything and hear everything from the characters. You know, the whole Red Wedding, like I just read, was, and there's way more depth to it, is all the things that are felt, the smells, the tastes, the sounds. It's all coming from Catelyn's perspective, whether she likes it or not or whatever. So I think that's what they tried to do. Obviously, you know, the Red Wedding was this spectacle, and they tend to do that a bit, I guess. They tend to do spectacles quite a bit. I don't think we ever see Varys just doing things on his own because he's not a POV character. I don't believe. Might be wrong. Ice and Fire, POV characters, Game of Thrones, Eddard Stark, Catelyn, Daenerys, Tyrion, Jon, Bran, Sansa, Arya, Will, a Ranger of the Night's Watch in the prologue. I think that's just the opening. Will is like that first character you see, and he introduces the concept of the White Walkers and dies immediately. Clash Kings, Tyrion, Arya, Jon, Sansa, Bran, Catelyn, Theon, Daenerys, Davos, Crescent. Again, in the chapter, in the prologue, he tends to do like this no-name character that means nothing. The Maester of Stannis Baratheon. A Storm of Swords, Arya, Jon, Tyrion, Jaime, Catelyn, Sansa, Davos, Daenerys, Samwell, Bran, Chet in the prologue, and Merritt Frey in the epilogue. So that's, again, just those prologue, epilogue character one-offs. Feast for Crows, Cersei, Bran, Jaime, Sam, Arya, Sansa, Aeron Greyjoy. So this is when he starts introducing Aeron, which we didn't see in the show.
Aeron.
He's
Get him fucked up, Aeron.
He's the younger brother of Balon and priest of the drowned god. Victarion Greyjoy. People were upset not to see this guy. He's the younger brother of Balon as well. Asha Greyjoy. Now Asha is Yara. They just changed the name of Asha to Yara. Ariel Hota, who is a captain of the guards of Dorian Martell, Prince of Dorne. So we see all the Dornish stuff through Ariel Hota's viewpoint.
Yeah,
I think we saw him. I think we saw him in one of the Dorne episodes. Eris Oakhart, a Knight of the Kingsguard, Chapter 1, and Pate. And these are characters in the book that people love, like Shave Master Pate, but you're not going to get him in the show because he's not relevant to the Game of Thrones necessarily. To some degree, he might be, to a small degree. And this is a thing where George Martin likes writing random characters sometimes, like, fuck it, I'll put that in there. And lastly, A Dance with Dragons, which is the last book we have so far. Jon Snow, Tyrion, Daenerys, Theon, Quentin Martell, which is probably the Martell guy that we saw at the final episode there, sitting in the chair, the Dornish guy. Is probably Quentin. He's the elder son of Doran and the last surviving member. Davos, Barristan Selmy, Asha Greyjoy, again, Yara. Bronn, John Connington, an exiled lord of Griffin's Roost, only gets 2 chapters. Cersei Lannister, Victarion. I think Victarion is Euron. I don't remember if Euron's a person in the book.
He is. I remember. I see all the memes about it, and he was supposed to be like a total badass in the book.
Well, that's Victarion, I believe. I think Victarion's the total badass that people wanted. So there's like, and the book readers are a little upset because there's certain plot devices in the books that nothing comes around to Yeah, Euron is in the book. He's the younger brother of Balon and Euron. So Euron Greyjoy finds a horn in the book.
I think it's in the show too. Maybe it's not Euron who finds it, but
it's like Samwell finds it with some dragon glass, but that's all. It's not really it's not really talked about. But the name of the horn is called Dragon Binder, or Hellhorn is also another word for it. It's a large dragon horn with Valyrian glyphs written upon it. The horn is 6 feet long. It's made from the horn of what must have been an enormous dragon. It has black gleam and is banded with a red, gold, and Valyrian steel. When touched, the horn feels warm and smooth. Its surface is shiny and reflective, though the reflection depicted is somehow twisted. The bands of the horn are covered by strange writings, Valyrian glyphs. With the horn sounds, the glyphs glow red hot and then white hot. We've only seen this used twice. In A Feast of Crows, it's brought to King's Moot by Euron Greyjoy when the Ironborn elect a new king. Euron claims to have sailed the Smoking Sea and found it amongst the smoking ruins that were Valyria. According to a semi-canon source, Euron took it from 4 warlocks from Karth, who he seized when they went in search of Daenerys Targaryen after the destruction of their house in the Undying. The horn's noise silences all at the King's Moot and ends the possible fight between the supporters of Euron's brother Victarion and his niece Asha Greyjoy. The horn's noise sounds like the screaming of 1,000 souls, and it seems to listeners as if the very bones are aflame and searing their flesh from within. Cragorn, the man who blows the iron horn for Euron, collapses with blisters on his lips, and a tattoo he has of a bird on his chest is bleeding. Euron wins the King's Moot by promising the Ironborn that they will conquer Westeros with dragons. When Asha argues that there are no more dragons, Euron tells her that there are 3, and he knows where to find them. He does not mention that the dragons belong to Daenerys. Cragorn dies later. When a maester cuts him open to examine the cause of death, it is discovered his lungs are charred black as soot. And then lastly, in A Dance with Dragons at Deepwood Moat, Asha reflects that the old Wyke, her uncle's Hellhorn, had blown a death knell for her dreams. Euron gives Victarion the horn when he sends him to Meereen to bring Daenerys Targaryen back to him. He has it with him aboard the Iron Victory. According to Makoro, the Valyrian glyphs on the horn read, "I am Dragonbinder. No mortal man shall sound me and live. Blood for fire, fire for blood." Makoro says whoever blows the horn will die, but any dragons that hear will
whenever blown you will die.
Whoever blows the horn will die, but any dragons that hear the horn will obey the horn's master. The Red Priests say Victarion must be made the horn's master, and he must claim the horn with blood. So that's as far as we have it. There's some speculation on the Winds of Winter that when Victarion and the Iron Fleet arrive in Slaver's Bay, Victarion still has the horn with him in his cabin. Some of the Iron Fleet arrives at the Bay of Meereen just as the Second Siege of Meereen is about to resume. So in the show, they don't really mess with this horn. Victarion isn't even a character, and Euron doesn't send Victarion there. And instead, Asha, or Yara, and Theon come to Daenerys seeking aid against their brother. And that's how she gets more ships. So the horn must not really go anywhere in the show, but the idea is that the horn can control dragons. So likely that's going to be a plot point with Daenerys when it comes to the horn. We don't have a Night King in the book. That doesn't mean there's not a Night King. There could be some other way to end the White Walkers, and it could have to do with Arya. I don't know. Could be that the way she loses the first dragon is with the horn, and there is no Night King. We don't know yet. Could be big changes like that. I don't know. But that's what the horn was, and that's what made Euron an interesting character. I guess in the show he's kind of interesting too, to be fair. He's not terrible. But I don't think that they needed to do another fucking season. I think that's what we're coming to with this, is they needed another season. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, I get it. You know, Star Wars is cool and all, and Dan and Dave probably grew up with Star Wars, and for them, this is fucking amazing to be able to do.
Yeah, well,
Star
sometimes
Wars.
you have to make tough choices, and I mean, this has been your baby for almost a decade, and you're just gonna shit all over the ending because you want to go and work on Star Wars. Like, put it up for adoption, you fucking idiots.
Yeah, give it to somebody else. I don't understand it. Why end it when you could turn it over to somebody else to close out?
I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of another time in television history where the network is like, please keep going, here's all the money. And the people running the show are like, nah. When does that ever happen?
Yeah.
It's just a terrible decision. And let's not forget that one of the D's in D&D, he's responsible for fucking writing the original Deadpool in the first X-Men movie, or the Origins movie, the Wolverine one, and completely fucked that up. Yeah, the movie's fine, but Deadpool, how do you fuck him up so bad?
To be fair, there wasn't a big drum up about Deadpool at the time in terms of the fan base.
Well, there was when they knew Deadpool was going to be in the movie.
Yeah, that's really what triggered that, I think. Here's what I'll say. I don't think the ending to Game of Thrones is bad. I think it should have been drawn out. And with it the way it is, it forces you to be presumptive and to talk about it. And I get it. Like, it's good to talk about it to some degree, sure. But not to this degree. Shit should not be just... Some things need to be explained.
Right. And they've, relegated themselves to being the explainers and the little inside the episode things that they have.
Right.
And now they're doing like an inside the season tonight where they have to explain the whole fucking season to people. Like, put it in the fucking show.
Put it in the show. Right. I don't want you to explain to me afterwards. Put it in the show.
It's fucking weird. Anyway, we've been going for almost 3 hours, so I think we're going to cut the podcast, and I'm going to go straight into The Witcher. Are you sticking around, or what?
Yeah, I'll stick around. It's hot as balls, so I'll probably take a break and cool off a little bit, but yeah, I'll be around. I mean, I might stream some Summer Car later, but I'll probably play some Witcher here in a little bit.
All right, well then... I'm not even going to give the spiel. You can find me right now, right here, on twitch.tv/TheKnightTerror.
Idiot.
Yeah, I'm going to take a quick break and go pee. And
that's the podcast. If you've watched the podcast during the stream, listen to it again, you son of a bitch.
Or just download it so that, we get those numbers up.
Download it and listen to it again, you son of a bitch.
That's all we got. Thanks for listening. Stick around for a little bit, and I'll be back with Witcher 3. And Gabbler will be back in half an hour Gabbler time, which is about 4 hours from now.
Yeah, I got to go to Lowe's at some point and buy insulation.
Yeah. See what I'm talking about?
Feels bad, man. I'm burning alive now. I'm having a heat stroke. Fuck off.
All right. Thanks for listening. See you next time.